The conqueror of the Baal dungeon, Sakurako Orimachi, makes a grand return to Japan. She conquered the infamous S-rank dungeon that had remained uncleared for 6 long years. Her victory is celebrated as a historic moment for all of humanity. Yet for the S-rank Grand Sorcerer, this incredible feat was merely to be expected. Reporters speculate that she will now aim to clear the legendary Lulu Heart dungeon. But the hero's expression darkens at the mention of fulfilling the dreams of others. She internally admits that their collective hope is of no concern to her. A powerful aura flares as she reaffirms that her conquests are for her own sake alone. She coolly walks away, ignoring pointed questions about a missing guild leader and Russian players. From afar, an unknown individual watches the entire broadcast on their phone. The mysterious viewer is revealed as a young man, unbothered by the news as he checks the time for his part-time job. He gets ready to leave, confirming his mundane task for the day, hauling cargo to the dungeon. On his screen, the hero's selfish declaration echoes, her aura radiating pure arrogance. He scoffs at her words, a flicker of resentment in his eyes as he puts down his phone. As the sun sets over the city, a different kind of ambition begins to stir. Now armed and standing on a rooftop, the cargo hauler reveals a hidden, determined side. His eyes gleam with a familiar purple light, hinting at a deep, personal connection to the dungeons. He gazes at the colossal dungeon tower, admitting he once shared the same dream of conquering it. This is the Lulu Heart dungeon, the world's first and deadliest challenge, a tower that has defeated all who dared to enter. A flashback reveals his younger self, once full of hope that he too could become a legendary player. But a stark white screen reveals that his dream was never meant to be. He remembers the day a man named Yukari Kanzaki delivered the life-shattering verdict. The diagnosis was a single, crushing word that echoed in the empty room: skillless. An official document sealed his fate, declaring he was forbidden from entering dungeons. He recalls the scorn of other players who berated him for wasting their time. Cast out and humiliated, he was left to gather his gear, branded as useless. Even his own friend began to question his relentless pursuit of a player's life. The friend urged him to stop dreaming, claiming the harsh words were an act of friendship. His world glitched as the cruel reality set in. He had no talent, no future as a player. That single word, skillless, became a dark curse that has haunted him ever since. This label marks those unable to gain skills forever barred from becoming players. The statistics are grim. Entering a dungeon without skills is a near-certain death sentence. Consequently, a mountain of regulations now forbids the skillless from even approaching dungeon gates. He grips his sword, internally acknowledging that he was never destined for greatness. Yet, he can't let go of his dream, clinging to any dungeon-related work he can find. Gazing at the colossal tower, he berates himself for his foolish, lingering hope. He bought a weapon he can never wield, a bitter reminder of his powerless state. A sudden disturbance below catches his attention as chaos erupts among the civilians on the street. Alarms blare across the city as a critical system alert flashes. A dungeon break has occurred. In the city plaza, a dungeon gate shatters, unleashing its contained horrors upon the world. From the Paimon dungeon, a colossal fire-breathing dragon, the disease demon of loneliness, descends upon the city. It is joined by other horrors, including a sword-wielding nun and a multi-mouthed beast from different dungeons. Caught in the ensuing panic, the cargo hauler stares in disbelief as the city is engulfed in flames and chaos. A system alert confirms the nightmare. A simultaneous dungeon break has unleashed countless monsters across the nation. He turns to flee, only to find one of the grotesque beasts lunging directly at him, its maw wide open. On pure instinct, he stabs at the creature's tongue with his small knife, a desperate and futile act of defense. The monster barely flinches, leaving him stunned and defenseless against the overwhelming threat. Frozen in fear, he realizes his life is about to end as the beast's jaws prepare to close around him. At the last second, a mysterious figure in elegant attire calmly draws an ornate sword. A brilliant flash of fiery crimson leaves slices through the air, unleashing a powerful and precise strike. The woman unleashes a devastating sword technique, obliterating the monster in a flurry of fiery maple leaves. She lands gracefully amidst the destruction, turning to check on the stunned cargo hauler. He looks up in disbelief as a system window identifies his savior as the S-rank player, Saera Orimachi. Overwhelmed with relief, the young man manages to thank the legendary hero for saving him. Saera dismisses his gratitude, warning him that the area is too dangerous and he must escape. Despite the danger, he clenches his fist, desperately asking if there's any way he can contribute. The S-rank player pauses, looking back at his naive offer for a brief moment. She turns with a cold, pitying look, informing him that his only useful action is to run. Her blunt dismissal shatters his hopeful expression, leaving him utterly speechless. He accepts his uselessness as Saera turns away, leaving him to watch from the sidelines once again. Saera screams a final urgent command for him to flee the battle zone immediately. Humiliated, he turns and sprints away, leaving the hero to fight amidst the carnage. He grits his teeth in frustration, the sting of his powerlessness fueling his desperate escape. The city burns around him as he runs for his life, gasping for air in the smoky streets. He dives for cover behind a car, trying to regain his composure and find a safe path. But his brief respite is shattered as another grotesque monster appears, blocking his way. Realizing the main roads are a death trap, he ducks into the back alleys for a better chance at survival. He freezes mid-stride, his eyes widening in shock at an unexpected sight before him. He discovers a mysterious, elegantly dressed woman lying wounded on the ground. Her vibrant purple eyes lock onto his as she weakly asks a bizarre question about his humanity. He assesses her grave injuries, realizing she desperately needs medical attention he can't provide. Elsewhere, the hero Sierra fights with fierce determination, refusing to yield to the overwhelming odds. Inspired by her stand, the young man decides he can no longer just run and hide from the chaos. A surge of resolve fills him, as he believes there must be some way for him to make a difference. He tries to help the wounded woman, but she violently rejects his aid, warning him to stay away. With a furious, inhuman glare, she scoffs at the idea of being rescued by a mere mortal. She vehemently repeats her command, outraged that he would dare to touch her. Ignoring her furious protests, he hoists her onto his back, much to her complete shock. He breaks into a sprint, telling her to hold on as he carries her through the dangerous alleyways. As they flee, a monstrous dragon continues its reign of terror over the burning cityscape. The dragon's eye crackles with immense purple energy, preparing to unleash devastation. It fires a colossal beam of destructive power, met head-on by the lone hero, Sarah. Their clash results in a cataclysmic explosion that engulfs a huge section of the city. A pillar of pure energy vaporizes everything in its path, leveling entire city blocks. The fiery blast radiates outwards, a testament to the S-rank player's incredible power. Caught in the shockwave, the cargo hauler looks back in disbelief at the unfolding apocalypse. The blast wave violently throws him and the mysterious woman to the ground. He tumbles across the shattered asphalt, separated from the person he was trying to save. Dazed and injured, he struggles to comprehend the sheer scale of the ongoing battle. His moment of confusion is cut short as the colossal eye of the dragon looms over him from the wreckage. He stares back in pure terror, frozen by the monstrous presence looming over him. The dragon's colossal eye reflects his tiny, helpless form, its gaze fixed upon him. Yet he realizes the monsters aren't just rampaging, they seem to be searching for something specific. Shaking off his fear, he resolves to find the person he was trying to save. He frantically scans the rubble and spots the wounded woman lying unconscious nearby. Ignoring his own pain, he struggles to lift her onto his back once more. The mysterious woman regains consciousness, her purple eyes filled with confusion at his actions. She questions his desperate efforts, telling him her death is inevitable regardless. He ignores her fatalism, leaping across the ruined streets with her in tow. With a grim look of acceptance, he acknowledges her point but refuses to give up. The woman looks at him, questioning his resolve in the face of certain doom. He screams back with raw determination, refusing to accept that doing nothing is an option. With tears in his eyes, he vows to do whatever little he can in this desperate moment. Her glowing purple eye reflects a profound understanding of his unwavering spirit. She realizes his core desire is to fundamentally change their hopeless circumstances. He gazes at the burning city, confessing his dream of saving the world if he only had the power. As he continues to run, he accepts the harsh reality that such a grand feat is beyond him. He looks down at her, declaring that if he can't save the world, he will at least save her. A single tear falls as the woman finally seems to comprehend the depth of his conviction. A mysterious purple energy swirls as she concludes that their goals have now perfectly aligned. She admits her disdain for relying on a fragile human, but declares he is her only option. Reaching for him, she offers a staggering deal, a chance to save the world in exchange for his soul. He stares in disbelief, questioning how such an impossible feat could ever be achieved. With a knowing smile, she reveals her plan involves returning to the past to start everything over. Now standing amidst the flames, she formally asks the human to state his name. With a look of grim determination, he identifies himself as Yukari Kanzaki. She rises into the air, unleashing a torrent of demonic energy that swirls around her. Revealing her true horned form, she introduces herself as Lulu Heart, the demon king of the Lulu Heart dungeon. Yukari recoils in utter shock, reeling from the revelation that he saved the ruler of the world's deadliest dungeon. In a final, ethereal vision, Lulu Heart proclaims the dungeon is a precious memory that must be preserved. With a final touch, Lulu Heart entrusts him with a mysterious golden power. His consciousness plummets through a digital abyss as reality itself begins to unravel around him. A system window acknowledges his selfless sacrifice, offering a skill from the round table as a reward. But the process immediately fails, flashing a critical error message across the void. The system confirms he lacks both the talent and causality needed for a skill, forcing it to deliberate. As a special exception, the Round Table decides to forge a unique skill just for him. The system initiates the creation sequence, building a new power from scratch. He is granted the ominous unknown rank skill Lost Man, a power that causes one to lose themselves. A final cryptic message blesses his resolve to lose, hinting at the skill's true nature. Yukari jolts awake in his own bed, realizing he has successfully returned to the past. He checks the news on his tablet, which reports the appearance of the S-rank Ball dungeon in Russia. A jolt of confusion hits him as he realizes this is an event from 6 years ago. He frantically checks his phone, questioning why the date has been rewound to the past. A familiar horned figure appears in his room, her voice breaking the silence. The Demon King Luluheart sits casually before him, cheerfully announcing that he has finally awakened. Her smug, fanged grin reveals she's enjoying his complete and utter confusion. Stumbling back in terror, he struggles to process the impossible situation unfolding in his bedroom. A flashback explains the origin of the crisis, the Luluheart dungeon, the first tower to appear in Shinjuku. This event triggered a chain reaction, causing similar towers to rise all across the globe. These dungeons became home to countless grotesque monsters, unleashing a new era of danger upon humanity. To counter these new threats, humanity awakened to a hidden potential, giving rise to heroes known as players. These chosen few wielded incredible skills, bending the very laws of physics to their will. A new history began, centered around the brave individuals who dared to enter the dungeons. Back in his room, Luluheart's voice cuts through his confusion, casually addressing him by name. She sits at his desk with a smug grin, announcing that he has finally returned to consciousness. He recoils in shock, demanding to know what has happened to him. With a sly, knowing look, the Demon King simply informs him that they have regressed. Yukari stares back in utter disbelief, struggling to comprehend the meaning of her words. She confirms they have traveled 6 years into the past, showing him visions of his former life. Luluheart proudly takes all the credit, boasting that this miracle was only possible through her power as the strongest Demon King. Yukari questions the reality of time travel, but Luluheart smugly declares that for her, nothing is out of reach. She explains the regression cost most of her power, leaving her in a smaller form that only he can perceive. He skeptically notes a faint resemblance to the powerful being he met in the future. The Demon King reminds him that she upheld her end of the deal, and now it's his turn to fulfill his promise. She points with a sharp gaze, commanding him to prevent the future dungeon break they escaped. Overwhelmed, Yukari admits he wants to stop the apocalypse but has no clue how to even start. Luluheart reveals the cataclysm was orchestrated by a rival faction of demon kings from other dungeons. Their ultimate goal was to corrupt her Luluheart dungeon, flooding the human world with its immense magical energy. She reveals with a pout that her rivals, too weak to face her individually, have formed an alliance against her. Luluheart unveils their grand mission, to conquer every dungeon in the world and rewrite their doomed fate. Yukari sits defeated on his bed, struggling to admit a difficult truth to the Demon King. With a look of shame, he confesses that he is, in fact, incredibly weak. He reveals the crushing reality of his situation. He is one of the skillless. Clenching his fists, he admits he has no powers and has never even set foot inside a dungeon. But a flicker of resolve suddenly appears in his eyes, hinting at his unbroken spirit. Luluheart cheerfully dismisses his concerns, declaring that his powerlessness is completely irrelevant. He looks up in shock as she tells him that his will is the only thing that truly matters. She explains that from her perspective, all humans are equally insignificant, so his status means nothing. The Demon King points at him with a confident grin, promising to personally train him to become the strongest. Her eyes glow with power as she reveals her grand ambition, for him to surpass all of humanity. She tasks him with the ultimate mission, to protect her beloved Luluheart dungeon. Their training begins as they are transported to the F-rank Lemuria dungeon. He admits this is his first time inside a dungeon, his nerves overriding any excitement. He questions the nature of their training as Luluheart begins to conjure a strange purple energy. The Demon King simply smiles, cryptically telling him he'll understand her methods soon enough. A wave of panic washes over him as he demands to know what she's planning. She unleashes the demonic power, blasting it directly into his unprepared body. He stumbles back, disoriented and overwhelmed by the chaotic energy coursing through him. The intense infusion causes an agonizing headache, as if his skull is about to split open. Luluheart cheerfully explains she forcibly opened his magic circuits, allowing even a skillless human to feel her power. He screams in agony, completely lost as the foreign energy ravages his body. Luluheart observes his torment, revealing his new skill also granted him the circuits to handle magic. The Demon King's power rages through him, the pain so intense he can no longer form a coherent thought. As his consciousness begins to fade, Luluheart casually dismisses his suffering as a minor side effect. He collapses to the floor, his only desire being for the excruciating torment to finally end. Suddenly, a system window confirms his desperate wish has met the conditions to activate his unique skill. He gasps for air on the dungeon floor, the overwhelming agony vanishing in an instant. A new notification declares he has successfully lost all sensation of pain, though the effect is temporary. Stunned, he sits up and clutches his chest, realizing the impossible has happened. The pain is gone. He stares at his hand, feeling the demonic energy now flowing calmly through his newly awakened circuits. His eyes glow with a purple light as he questions the new sensation of magical power. He understands this energy is the very foundation for all player skills and class magic. In his past life, he was completely cut off from this power, unable to even sense its existence. Now he clenches his fists, feeling the potent demonic energy coursing through his entire body. A wide grin spreads across his face as he revels in the incredible feeling of power he's never known. Luluheart casually remarks on his convenient new ability, advising him to simply discard anything that holds him back. She then instructs him to focus the magical power now flowing through him, directing it towards his feet. The Demon King explains that by mastering this energy, he can achieve feats far beyond normal human capabilities. With intense concentration, Yukari attempts to follow her command, focusing his will on the task. The purple energy responds, crackling around his feet as he successfully channels it for the first time. The demonic energy sputters unsteadily around his feet, refusing to be controlled. He admits his frustration, explaining the power dissipates before he can properly wield it. Luluheart casually waves off his failure, admitting she never expected him to succeed on the first try. Surprised by her leniency, he remarks on her unexpected kindness, having braced for a harsh rebuke. The Demon King smirks, a mischievous glint in her eye as she prepares to reveal her true lesson. She playfully declares that his personal feelings and abilities are completely irrelevant to the task at hand. Utterly confused by her cryptic words, Yukari demands to know what she's talking about. Luluheart simply tells him to pay attention, hinting that a new presence has entered the room. His eyes widen in terror as a hulking orc bursts from a fiery archway, charging directly at them. The monstrous creature roars, its menacing form filling his vision as it closes the distance in an instant. Yukari flees in terror, questioning why a powerful orc is guarding the dungeon entrance. Luluheart explains that by absorbing her power, he has become an irresistible target. To monsters, his demonic energy is like an exquisite delicacy they can't possibly ignore. She cheekily points out that it's only natural for predators to hunt such a prize. He panics, realizing he has zero combat experience to face this sudden threat. The Demon King casually suggests he could escape if he just learned to channel magic into his feet. He screams in frustration at her impossible advice, calling her out on her cruelty. With no time left, the orc brings its massive club crashing down on the helpless human. At the last possible second, a surge of purple energy erupts around his feet. His body reacts instinctively, unlocking a new level of power as he's launched forward. He narrowly evades the devastating blow, propelled forward by the sudden burst of demonic energy. Landing safely across the room, he looks back at the stunned orc, having created a massive gap between them. He stares at his feet in shock, realizing he had successfully channeled the magic without even thinking. A glowing, cracked footprint marks the spot where he unleashed his newfound power. An ecstatic grin spreads across his face as he finally grasps the true feeling of magical power manipulation. He clenches his fists, reveling in the potent energy that now flows through his veins. Luluheart calmly sips her tea, telling him it's all right to be impressed by his own progress. His moment of celebration is cut short as he snaps back to the dangerous reality of his situation. The Demon King warns him that his newfound ability won't save him if he just stands there. The enraged orc closes the distance, swinging its massive club for another deadly strike. Yukari freezes in terror, accepting that his end has finally come. The orc's club crashes down with devastating force, seemingly crushing him instantly. A system window confirms his death, announcing that his unique skill will now be retrieved. But Luluheart's voice echoes from the void, refusing to allow him to die and abandon their mission. A demonic hand reaches out, forcefully interrupting the system's retrieval process. Her power shatters the system's command, breaking the rules of life and death. A new notification confirms the system has been overridden by the intervention of the Demon King. The system announces that their contract has activated a failsafe, a 1-hour regression. An intricate magical seal forms, solidifying the pact that will rewind his fate. The death screen flickers and fades as time itself begins to unravel around him. The system confirms his contract with the Demon King has rewound time by 1 hour. Yukari jolts back to consciousness, a pained groan escaping his lips. He finds himself back on the dungeon floor, with Luluheart cheerfully greeting him after his recent demise. The Demon King smirks, conjuring more demonic energy as she suggests they immediately resume his training. He looks on in disbelief as she once again places her hand on his chest, preparing to repeat the agonizing process. An excruciating surge of purple energy once again courses through his body, causing him immense torment. He grits his teeth, recognizing the all-too-familiar feeling of his body being torn apart by her power. Just as before, a system notification announces the activation of his unique skill, Lost Man. As the system confirms he has lost all sensation of pain, he glares at Luluheart, furious at her methods. The Demon King taunts him from afar, reminding him that the hulking orc is still very much a threat. He desperately dodges another devastating blow from the enraged orc. He looks back in confusion, only for Luluheart to casually confirm that he did in fact die. She explains he was completely obliterated by the orc's club, leaving him to question how he's still alive. Luluheart reveals their contract allows him to return to a point 1 hour before his death. The reality of his situation sinks in as he once again finds himself fleeing from the hulking monster. She simplifies his new reality. He is now functionally immortal until he stops the other Demon Kings. With a deceptively sweet smile, she declares that they are bound together in this mission. Her expression darkens, revealing a possessive glare as she forbids him from abandoning her through death. The Demon King challenges him to prove his resolve as the orc looms over him, ready to strike. Steeling himself, he channels the demonic energy into his feet, preparing to face the threat head-on. With a burst of demonic energy, he launches himself away, narrowly dodging the orc's devastating strike. The Demon King watches with amusement, remarking that his reaction time has significantly improved. He catches his breath behind a pillar as the Demon King theorizes that dying once actually helped him learn faster. The Demon King floats majestically, reminding him that he can't prevent the apocalypse by just running from every fight. Her words hit home and he stands firm, realizing he didn't regress just to keep fleeing from low-level monsters. The Demon King's expression turns serious as she commands him to listen closely to her next words. She begins to explain the nature of his magic circuits, the very channels that link him to the world's ambient magical energy. Holding a ball of raw energy between them, she reveals a profound truth. This power is the manifestation of his soul. She elaborates that magical power is controlled by sheer force of will, showing a vision of a powerful wielder as an example. The ultimate key to this power, she concludes, is to possess an unbreakable and powerful desire. Luluheart explains that desire can be a passionate wish to get stronger, or the arrogant goal of saving the world. The Demon King leans in, her fanged grin widening as she asks him to reveal his own deepest desire. He hesitates, his mind flashing back to the apocalyptic future he desperately wants to prevent. Taking a determined step forward, he admits his first wish is to stop the catastrophic dungeon break. A fire ignites in his eyes as he shouts his conviction, no longer holding back. He then declares that to achieve this, he must become undeniably stronger. His moment of clarity is interrupted as the orc's club comes crashing down on him once more. But this time, instead of fleeing, he charges forward with a sword in hand, ready to fight back. He channels the demonic energy into the blade, his eyes glowing with newfound power as he prepares to strike. With a powerful swing, he unleashes a devastating arc of purple energy, slicing clean through the hulking monster. He stands panting over the bisected remains of the orc, demonic energy still swirling around him. Leaning on his sword, he celebrates his very first monster kill with a look of pure elation. Luluheart watches from above, casually remarking that his success was to be expected. She then reveals her original, much crueler plan, to have him die 100 times to acclimate his body to magic. The Demon King smirks, admitting his unique skill conveniently spared them a lot of repetitive training. He glares back, internally concluding that his demonic mentor is truly the worst. Unbothered, she turns away and announces that the next phase of his training is about to begin. Suddenly, the chamber doors burst open, revealing an entire horde of enraged orcs. Without hesitation, he channels demonic energy into his feet, preparing for the onslaught. Yukari launches himself into the air, diving headfirst into the sea of monsters below. He revels in the magical energy now coursing through his entire body. With a fierce battle cry, he unleashes his newfound power upon the horde. He channels the demonic energy into a powerful upward strike, cleaving a monster in two. The sheer force of the battle sends him flying, his body moving in ways he never thought possible. He gracefully twists in the air, bringing his enchanted blade down on another unsuspecting foe. He moves with instinctual grace, his body now a blur of deadly motion amidst the chaos. After a grueling hour, he stands victorious over the remains of 10 defeated orcs. Battered but not broken, he glares ahead, his first real combat experience hardening his resolve. Luluheart watches with a satisfied smirk, impressed by his rapid progress. He grins back, realizing that at this rate, becoming the strongest is no longer just a dream. Lulu Heart lets out a playful shriek as their training suddenly shifts to a vast, empty coliseum. The vision changes, showing a grim dungeon chamber from a different time and place. A sinister man in a suit appears, admiring his wicked blade and mocking his opponent's foolishness. He looms over a defeated Sarah Orimachi, taunting her for choosing to protect her fallen comrades. Wounded but defiant, Sarah glares back, her status as a future hero revealed. The man's eyes glow with an unsettling light, acknowledging the powerful potential he sees within her. With a manic grin, he raises his dagger, declaring that he was right to make her his target. Sarah grits her teeth in frustration, powerless to stop the impending final blow. But at the last second, Yukari intercepts the attack, vowing to protect the helpless player. Channeling demonic energy into his sword, he furiously pushes back, demanding to know what the man is doing. The sinister man grins, mockingly demanding to know the identity of his new challenger. From the floor, Sarah recognizes the man as a notorious player killer and desperately warns Yukari to flee. He glances back in shock, realizing the wounded player is none other than Sarah Orimachi. Yukari understands this is the very S-rank hero who saved his life in the apocalyptic future he escaped. The villain's smirk widens as he prepares to strike down this unexpected interruption. He taunts Yukari for his distraction, unleashing a powerful blow with his massive weapon. Yukari barely parries the strike, realizing with horror that he's exhausted his magical power and is now immobilized. The villain seizes the opening, his hand glowing with a sinister energy as he prepares a new attack. A system window announces the activation of the villain's terrifying skill, the Wave of Terror. The debilitating energy slams into Yukari, afflicting him with a paralyzing fear status. Yukari is stunned as the system confirms he's been afflicted with a fear status. The skill's effect is absolute, forcing an intense, paralyzing fear of the villain, Hei Akizuki. A cascade of system windows reveals he's also been stripped of his skills, mobility, and stats. With Yukari completely helpless, the player killer advances, his sinister blade glowing with malevolent energy. The villain's dagger plunges into Yukari, a brutal strike that leaves him reeling in agony. His eyes widen in torment as the searing pain overwhelms his senses. The player killer casually walks away from the scene, leaving Yukari kneeling amidst the fallen players. He turns back with a chilling smile, revealing his twisted desire is to understand the nature of other players' skills. Yukari cries out in silent agony, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated suffering. The villain calmly states his intention to dissect them, hoping to uncover the secrets of their power. He clenches his fist in frustration, unable to move as the villain continues his gruesome task. A desperate scream tears from his throat as he tries to crawl forward, his body refusing to obey. His mind flashes back to the future, recalling how Sarah saved him, yet now he can do nothing for her. The player killer grabs him by the hair, and Yukari can only blame his own powerlessness for this fate. He concludes that this entire tragic scene is a direct result of his own weakness. Overwhelmed by regret, his mind races with the thought of what he could have done. His one burning desire crystallizes into a single desperate wish for more power. In the next moment, a system window appears, coldly announcing that he has died. But his death triggers the failsafe in his contract, announcing a 1-hour regression into the past. He jolts back to reality, finding himself alive and well in the Coliseum with Lulu Heart observing him. Back in the Coliseum, Yukari makes a formal request to the Demon King. He grips his sword, asking her to make him powerful enough to face his foe. He vows to defeat the player killer, declaring that even repeated death won't stop him. The Demon King calmly acknowledges his newfound and unwavering resolve. She smirks, admitting she doesn't care about the girl but sees that saving her is his driving force. With that understanding, she agrees to his plea and promises to personally oversee his training. The scene shifts back to the dungeon, where the villain taunts a younger Sarah about her inexperience. He seems impressed by her skill, identifying her as the sister of the renowned Sakurako Orimachi. Sarah struggles to her feet, exhausted and noting the unusual absence of monsters in the area. The player killer lunges forward with a manic grin, preparing to inflict a final, cruel blow. Sarah's eyes widen in disbelief as she watches the unexpected intervention. Yukari intercepts the attack, his demonic sword clashing violently against the villain's blade. The player killer demands to know the identity of this new challenger who dares to protect Sarah. Despite her own peril, Sarah desperately warns Yukari to escape, revealing the man preys on new players. Her words trigger a horrifying realization for Yukari as he connects the dots. Ignoring her plea, he grits his teeth and vows to find a way to deal with the situation himself. But his determination is not enough, as a system window coldly announces his second death. In the void, he recalls that in the original timeline, Sarah was never supposed to be this gravely injured. He understands with dawning horror that his own actions in the dungeon led the killer right to her. A diagram explains his predicament. His regression is limited, and he can't rewind past his first death in this loop. Crushed with guilt, he understands his earlier hesitation led directly to this tragic outcome. Pinned to the ground, he concludes that his own powerlessness is the sole reason for this failure. The familiar system window appears, confirming his third death at the hands of the player killer. He suffers another fatal blow, his death serving as a harsh lesson from Lulu Hart on the need for cunning. His demonic mentor instructs him to stop separating his actions and instead connect them into a fluid motion. His power flickers unsteadily, prompting a sharp reminder from his mentor to never lose focus. His next death comes with a lesson: to read the enemy's magical power and predict their next move. Understanding the villain's counter-based style, he's instructed to bait his opponent into attacking first. From the ground, a bewildered Sierra questions his relentless efforts to protect her and the others. The Demon King watches his endless cycle of death and rebirth, calmly asking if he is no longer afraid to die. He admits he has nothing, forcing him to use every trick and resource at his disposal. He understands this is the only way he can ever hope to save anyone. With grim determination, he accepts that he must be willing to sacrifice even his own life. From the sidelines, the Demon King seems to finally grasp the depth of his resolve. He flashes back to the apocalyptic future, reminding himself that if he gives up, countless people will die. Lying defeated on the cold floor, he weighs the fate of all humanity against his own personal suffering, deciding the choice of which to prioritize is obvious. The Demon King listens intently, his words clearly having a profound effect on her. She recalls that most humans she's observed in dungeons are selfish, abandoning their comrades without a second thought. A brilliant light shines in her eye, signaling a profound shift in her perception of him. The Demon King questions how a human like Yukari can be so selfless, acting purely for the sake of others. System windows flash endlessly, each one confirming another one of his deaths in the brutal training loop. The player killer mockingly praises Yukari's ability to read his attacks, impressed by his rapid learning. Yet, the villain taunts him, claiming their fundamental resolve when facing death is on entirely different levels. Yukari is taken aback, questioning the true meaning behind his opponent's chilling words. He looks upon a vision of his countless failures, wondering if his determination is still not enough. Despite his doubts, he clenches his fist, refusing to let his spirit be broken. From the ground, Sarah continues to watch in disbelief, unable to comprehend his relentless sacrifice. With a fierce glare, Yukari reaffirms his core desire. He simply doesn't want anyone else to die. Lulu Hart observes him silently, preparing to admit a truth she has just come to realize. The Demon King admits she underestimated the sheer depth of his determination. Now impressed, she offers to teach him the final lesson he needs to succeed. She reveals he lacks the simple awareness that he has already become strong. Yukari looks baffled, not understanding what she means by this. His confusion quickly turns to a flicker of understanding as her words sink in. Lulu Hart explains he's still mentally trapped in the past, viewing himself as weak. She reminds him that while he once had no talent or power, that is no longer the case. Despite his old limitations, he repeatedly chose to die and fight again for his goal. She points out that he could have easily abandoned Sierra to save himself at any point. As he tries to protest, she confirms his selfless choice proves he is no longer the same weak person. She reminds him that despite his countless deaths, he never once chose to run away. Instead, he always chose to get back up and continue the fight, no matter the cost. She concludes that his relentless struggle is the very reason for his transformation. With a confident gesture, she declares that he has already become truly strong. Her words finally hit him, leaving him stunned as he processes this new reality. With a smug grin, she announces that he has earned the official acknowledgement of a Demon King. She challenges him to cast aside his hesitation and embrace the power he has earned. A surge of determination flows through him as he finally begins to rise. He clenches his fist, his eyes now burning with the conviction of a true warrior. Back in the fight, he effortlessly intercepts the player killer's strike, the tables having finally turned. With newfound clarity, he can now perfectly discern the player killer's sword movements. The villain recoils in shock, completely unprepared for Yukari's sudden and confident defense. Yukari unleashes a furious counterattack, his demonic blade clashing against his opponent's. He puts all his might into a single, devastating swing, sending a wave of purple energy across the chamber. The powerful strike connects, proving that with his current strength, he can finally defeat his foe. Lulu Hart's voice echoes in his mind, demanding he stop pretending to be the weakling he once was. He internalizes her words, finally accepting the powerful warrior he has become through his trials. Annoyed by the turn of events, the player killer steps back, preparing to change his strategy. Yukari's eyes narrow as he instantly predicts the incoming thrust from his opponent. He effortlessly deflects the attack, already anticipating the follow-up strike from above. The player killer follows up with a swift, powerful kick, aiming to end the fight. He's stunned by the sudden change, questioning how Yukari's movements became so precise. The villain recalls that moments ago his opponent was just a hesitant amateur, but now he faces a warrior with cold, unwavering determination in his eyes. His mind flashes back to the weakling who once cowered helplessly before him. Yet he finds himself being pushed back by this same person's relentless assault. The player killer stumbles, completely baffled by how he's being overpowered. A glint of understanding flashes in Yukari's eyes as he realizes this is his moment to strike. He activates his unique skill, Lost Man, preparing to shed the last of his fear. The villain smirks, believing he's spotted an opening as he prepares a powerful counter. The player killer unleashes his signature, Wave of Terror, a skill designed to paralyze opponents with fear. But Yukari stands his ground as a system window confirms the attack has failed against a target who feels no fear. The villain reels in shock, questioning how his ultimate skill could have been so easily nullified. Believing it's impossible to defend at such close range, he lunges forward for a physical strike. Yukari calmly activates his Lost Man skill again, this time choosing to discard the sensation of pain. The player killer lands a vicious blow, convinced he has finally secured his victory. Yet, Yukari simply offers a faint, unnerving smile, completely unfazed by the critical hit. The villain's confidence shatters, his eyes widening in disbelief at his opponent's impossible resilience. In a shocking display of power, Yukari catches the villain's blade with his bare hand, stopping the attack cold. The player killer's mind races with confusion, unable to comprehend how his every move is being countered and his skills rendered useless. With a determined smile, Yukari realizes he has finally achieved his goal. He recalls the image of the hero he once looked up to, understanding he's finally reached her level. His eyes blaze with demonic power as he declares he has finally caught up to his opponent. The player killer stares in disbelief, demanding to know the identity of this impossible foe. With a final decisive swing, Yukari unleashes a devastating wave of demonic energy. The villain lies defeated, refusing to accept that he was bested by a supposed novice. Yukari reveals the staggering truth of his ordeal, stating he died 187 times at the villain's hands. Yet he stands victorious, declaring that despite it all, he is the one left standing. Sometime later, the immediate aftermath of the battle unfolds. Saira's guild arrives on the scene, and their healers begin to treat the wounded players. Saira approaches the seated Yukari, offering a heartfelt apology and vowing to make amends. With a look of profound relief, she states that the fact no one died is all that truly matters. Turning back as she leaves with her guild, she offers him her profound and sincere thanks. The scene transitions to a city skyline, showing that a considerable amount of time has passed since the incident. Back on a city street, Luluheart faces Yukari, finally acknowledging his efforts and telling him he did well. A smug smile plays on her lips as she addresses him by his full name, Yukari Kanzaki. From her point of view, she watches as Yukari stands before her, overwhelmed with emotion. With tears of gratitude streaming down his face, he finally thanks his demonic mentor. The Demon King smirks, questioning his tears and reminding him that their true mission is to stop the impending dungeon break. Her eyes gleam with confidence, reminding him that this victory is only the beginning of their long fight. She raises a hand, questioning if their mission requires them to surpass even the mighty S-rank players. The Demon King points skyward, clarifying his new elevated status in her grand design. With a flourish, she bestows upon him a new title, a Demon King-class player who can return from death. He lets out a dry laugh, looking down as he considers the absurdity of his new classification. A small smile forms as he realizes that being Demon King class might actually suit him. Yukari turns to his mentor, vowing to one day become as strong as the Demon King herself. He clenches his fist with renewed determination, promising to give his all to her harsh training. With a confident look, he declares his ultimate goal is to completely rewrite the tragic future. The story shifts to the next day, focusing on the impressive facade of the Japan Player Association. Inside the grand hall, Yukari approaches a woman standing before a massive, mysterious sphere. The association staffer confirms his battle results are extraordinary enough for an immediate rank-up. She internally questions how this rookie managed to defeat both orcs and the notorious player killer Kei Akazuki. The woman finds it hard to believe he accomplished all of this on his very first day. She considers the theory that Akazuki was a high ranker preying on beginners, making Yukari's feat even more astounding. Suddenly, a system notification pops up, catching him completely off guard. The system announces his contributions have exceeded all standards, granting him the special title of EM Player. A cascade of notifications confirms a rank correction, a massive boost to his stats, and the opening of a second magic circuit. His unique skill, Lost Man, levels up, extending its effects and allowing him to discard even more sensations at once. He grins with newfound confidence, realizing that as a high-rank player, he can finally choose a class. Later, outside the association building, a familiar voice apologizes for keeping him waiting. He turns to find Saira Orimachi, who apologizes for calling him out so suddenly. He's stunned as she approaches with a full entourage, looking every bit the part of a high-status individual. Noticing his shock, she asks if something is wrong, but he quickly plays it off. He suddenly remembers that in all the chaos, he forgot she's the daughter of the powerful Oda conglomerate. In his previous timeline, she was a super genius who became the 8th-ranked S-class player in the world, ruling Japan alongside her sister. Her incredible skill, the Eye of Truth, was famous even in the future he came from. It's a top-tier mental ability that allows its user to see through any and all deception. The skill isn't just for lies, it can also perceive every feint and trick during combat. She thanks him for his help the day before, but he deflects, giving her credit for protecting her teammates. He reflects on her incredible bravery, having later learned it was her very first dungeon raid as well. She leans in close, admitting his words have put her at ease, much to his flustered surprise. The next day, they meet at a cafe to follow through on their plan for him to acquire a class. Sayera offers to explain the basics of the class system, with Lulu Hart listening in from the side. A diagram illustrates the 3 main class types available to players: physical, magical, and mental. She lists examples, from physical warriors and knights to magical sorcerers and mental summoners. He reflects on his past life, where his obsessive research meant he already knew all of this. Yukari recalls that in the original timeline, Sayera chose the legendary Sword Saint class. Her unique Eye of Truth skill combined with her class's counter ability made her an unbeatable opponent. She continues her explanation, emphasizing the critical importance of compatibility between skills and classes. A visual guide shows how matching a skill to a class with the same affinity can create a powerful synergy. She warns that mismatching skills and classes, like a mage choosing a warrior path, results in mediocrity. Sayera admits she doesn't know his specific skill, but urges him to choose his class wisely. He internally worries as his unique Lost Man skill is completely unknown, leaving him clueless about his class options. Lulu Hart listens intently, finally beginning to understand the logic behind how human players acquire their abilities. Sayera stands, announcing she'll go get her own class judgment first while he thinks. Sometime later, she returns to the table, apologizing for the wait. She asks if he's decided, and he reveals he has 4 potential class candidates, including Sword Saint and Paladin. He's stunned by her options, knowing that even having 2 class choices is considered a sign of genius. But she excitedly reveals she chose something else entirely, the S-rank class, Maid. He recoils in utter disbelief, struggling to process that Maid is somehow an S-rank class. A system window reveals the Maid class is a deadly S-rank support role, combining elegant magic with ruthless combat. He recalls that in the original timeline, Sayera chose the powerful A-rank class, Sword Saint. She beams with excitement, declaring that her new class will let her fight alongside brave heroes like him. Her words catch him off guard, as he's never considered himself a brave person before. A warm smile spreads across his face, genuinely touched by her high praise. Sayera cheerfully announces that it's finally his turn to receive a class judgment. The scene returns to the Grand Hall, where the mysterious class selection sphere awaits. He approaches the orb, realizing that in his past life he never had the chance to choose a class at all. With a deep breath, he places his hand on the glowing sphere, initiating the assessment. A system window appears, beginning to assess his divine glass aptitude, a term he's never seen before. But the assessment process suddenly shorts out, flashing a glaring red error message. He stares in confusion, wondering if the entire system is malfunctioning. New notifications appear, revealing the system is now redefining his class based on its findings. Even the Demon King looks on with a flicker of surprise, intrigued by this unexpected turn. A moment later, a new window declares that his unique class assessment is finally complete. He watches with bated breath, a bead of sweat trickling down his face as he awaits the result. A brilliant purple light reveals his new class, the unheard-of Soul Eater. The system reveals it's an EX++ rank class that wields a Demon King's power, but warns it may eventually consume him. His eyes widen in disbelief, completely stunned by the ominous name of his new class. A flood of notifications unlocks 4 powerful abilities, as he realizes this class never existed in his original timeline. He stares in utter confusion, unable to comprehend the system's strange assessment. Even Lulu Hart is shocked, grabbing his shoulder as they both try to process his new ability. He realizes with a jolt that this Soul Eater class never existed in his original timeline. The Demon King demands answers, questioning what kind of power he has just unlocked. A system window provides a detailed breakdown of the EX++ rank class, which devours souls to gain power and knowledge. Lulu Hart comes to a startling conclusion. The system must have judged her own demonic power as part of his aptitude. 4 new skills are unlocked, including the ability to absorb an enemy's soul and stats upon defeat. Snapping back to reality, he finds Sayera waiting patiently, asking if he has made his choice. He confirms his decision, revealing he has chosen the unheard-of Soul Eater class. Sarah is stunned, remarking on the incredible coincidence that they both received unique, never-before-seen classes. Lulu Heart sees a perfect opportunity and orders Yukari to challenge Sayera to a mock battle. She instructs him to test his new class's power in a real fight, promising they'll discuss it afterward. The scene changes to an indoor arena at the Japan Player Association's Shinjuku branch. Yukari stands ready with his sword, questioning Sayera's choice of attire for their duel. Sayera strikes a pose, surrounded by a brilliant aura as she shows off her new maid outfit. She confidently confirms that she is in fact wearing a maid uniform. He stares in complete bewilderment, unable to understand her fashion choice for a fight. With a bright smile, she simply explains that wearing it boosts her morale, leaving him flustered. A crowd gathers, buzzing with excitement to see the sister of a famous player fight the rookie who defeated the notorious Kei Akizuki. An association official steps forward, raising her hand to formally begin the mock battle. With their stats displayed, the mock battle between the two unique class holders officially begins. Yukari resolves to test the unknown abilities of his Soul Eater class right here and now. His class ability, Soul Loss, activates, immediately granting him an increase in mana. But a second notification reveals he's also been hit with a debilitating hatred debuff, much to his shock. He stares in disbelief, questioning why his own power would inflict a negative status effect on him. Thinking fast, he uses his Lost Man skill to discard the emotion, instantly nullifying the debuff. Lulu Heart cheekily admits his power has drawbacks, and he glares back knowing she intentionally kept this from him. Sarah calls out from across the arena, and he quickly confirms that he's ready to proceed. A confident smile plays on her lips as her eyes glint with anticipation for the fight. Her expression hardens with resolve as she declares her intent to attack, launching the duel into motion. A flash of red energy crackles in his eyes as he struggles to keep up with her sudden movement. A system window reveals her Maid's Work Tools skill, and he's stunned by her incredible speed. He desperately parries a barrage of enchanted daggers, his demonic sword a blur of motion. From her uniform, Sayera draws another gleaming blade, ready for her next assault. Their weapons collide in a shower of sparks as Yukari barely manages to block her powerful strike. He recalls her Eye of Truth can see through any feint, forcing him to fight her directly. Sayera's confident smirk shows she won't give him a single moment to catch his breath. A glowing dagger grazes past his face, forcing him into a desperate last-second dodge. She looms over him, her fingers glowing with power as she prepares to strike while he's off balance. With intense focus, Yukari braces himself, anticipating the inevitable follow-up attack. A system window confirms he's activated his Lost Man skill, discarding the sensation of fear. Sarah retaliates by unleashing a devastating storm of enchanted daggers from the air. He moves with impossible speed, gracefully weaving through the deadly barrage of blades. Sayera watches in disbelief, stunned that he managed to evade her wide-scale attack. Seizing the opening, Yukari closes the distance and unleashes a powerful counterswing. Their swords collide with incredible force, and Sarah is shocked by the sheer power behind his strike. The impact sends her reeling backward, while Yukari braces himself against the powerful recoil. The onlookers gasp in astonishment at the unexpected turn of events in the duel. A system window details his soul trial ability, which floods his body with mana at a cost. Sayera critiques his direct approach, noting he isn't using the same cunning he showed against the player killer. He's taken aback as Sayera closes the distance with surprising speed, initiating her attack. She unleashes a relentless barrage of strikes, the sheer force of her assault feeling like a tidal wave. Yukari struggles to parry, wondering how a fellow rookie possesses such advanced combat knowledge. With a surge of determination, he prepares to power through her offensive with a forceful overhead swing. Sayera merely offers a confident smile, seemingly unfazed by his desperate counter. A system window confirms the activation of her class ability, Maid's Culinary Arts, as her aura intensifies. He watches in disbelief as she leaps into the air, conjuring a massive vortex of fire. Surrounded by flames, he questions how the maid class could possibly wield such powerful magic. She looks down with a smug expression, asserting her class's unexpected mastery over fire. A devastating wave of fire engulfs him, sending him flying as he realizes the absurdity of the situation. He grunts in pain, caught off guard by her absurd yet devastating fire-based cooking skill. Recovering quickly, he deflects a barrage of flaming slashes as their duel intensifies. He recognizes the true power of a future S-rank player, speculating she could have beaten the villain on her own. A fierce grin spreads across her face as she brandishes a new set of bladed claws, ready to press her advantage. Despite the onslaught, his eyes reveal a steely resolve, showing he has no intention of backing down. Acknowledging his unbroken spirit, she summons a storm of enchanted daggers to rain down on him. Weaving through the attack, he expertly parries the storm of blades with his demonic sword. He grits his teeth in exertion, feeling the strain of her non-stop, overwhelming assault. Believing she has him cornered, she swoops down from above to deliver a decisive finishing strike. His eyes narrow in concentration as he braces himself, fully anticipating her final, decisive attack. He sees a critical opening, planting his foot to pivot into a counterattack. A system window confirms he's activated Lost Man, choosing to discard the sensation of pain. Saira lands a powerful kick directly against his guard, expecting a decisive blow. But Yukari remains completely unfazed, his calm expression revealing her attack had no effect. She recoils in disbelief, questioning how her clean and powerful strike was completely ignored. Saira stares in utter confusion, unable to comprehend why he isn't reacting to the pain. Taking advantage of her shock, he unleashes a massive counterswing that sends her flying. A system notification reveals his health has dropped below 50%, proving he's still taking damage. The low health triggers his class ability, Soul Trial, activating his Abyss Soul and boosting his mana. Saira watches in astonishment as his demonic aura flares, his power surging even as he takes damage. He presses his advantage, his demonic sword overwhelming her defenses with sheer force. Saira struggles to keep up, realizing the weight and power behind his attacks are too much to handle. Gritting her teeth, she accepts that she can no longer block his relentless assault. Channeling his demonic energy, Yukari prepares to unleash a final, decisive blow to end the duel. He swings his sword, sending a massive wave of power that blasts Saira across the arena floor. With the battle decided, an official announcement declares Yukari Kanzaki the winner. From the ground, Saira looks on with admiration, acknowledging his impressive performance. She gracefully accepts her defeat, extending a hand in a gesture of good sportsmanship. Yukari humbly deflects the praise, suggesting the outcome was merely luck and that she would win a rematch. She questions his sincerity, and he confirms it, expressing his belief that she will become an incredible player. His praise is met with a low growl of frustration from the defeated Saira. She erupts in a fit of rage, furious with herself for losing the match. Yukari is taken aback by her sudden and passionate outburst. She berates him for his reckless tactics, questioning his sanity for charging into a storm of blades. As she continues her tirade, he can only offer an awkward laugh in response. He realizes that beneath her composed exterior, Saira is far more expressive than he ever imagined. She vents her frustration on the nearby furniture, angry at her own immaturity for thinking she had secured the win. Her anger suddenly shifts to fiery determination as she points directly at him. With a brilliant smile, she confidently vows that she will not lose their next battle. Yukari is left completely captivated by her unwavering spirit and fierce declaration. He accepts her challenge with a confident smile, already looking forward to their rematch. Her fierce declaration echoes, promising that she will be the victor next time. The next day, the scene shifts to the imposing entrance of an E-rank dungeon gate. Luluheart confirms this is the perfect, low-risk location to test his new Soul Eater class. She reassures him that she chose an easy dungeon for this test run, and he reluctantly agrees. As he steps toward the gate, a powerful demonic aura erupts from him. Luluheart watches with a knowing smirk, clearly anticipating the outcome of her little experiment. Yukari strides into the portal, his body enveloped in a maelstrom of chaotic energy. Outside, nearby security guards are startled by the sudden and unusual atmospheric disturbance. The gate suddenly turns a menacing red, as a guard reports a massive power surge has transformed it into a deadly red dungeon. The guards outside panic, screaming for backup from both the Hayaka Ryurin Guild and the Player Association. Meanwhile, inside the now transformed dungeon, Yukari finds himself in a menacing stone corridor. He immediately leaps into action, his demonic sword carving a path through the newly empowered monsters. An armored knight raises its blade, preparing to strike him down as he stands his ground. His eyes widen as he looks up, seeing a powerful beam of magical energy hurtling towards him. He narrowly dodges the devastating attack, which shatters the stone floor where he just stood. Without missing a beat, he unleashes a powerful counterswing, his blade glowing with purple energy. He presses his assault, cutting down another armored foe with a determined expression. Kneeling amidst the defeated monsters, he notes their surprising strength for a supposedly low-rank dungeon. Luluheart watches in quiet amazement, stunned that he's defeating red dungeon monsters on his first attempt. He realizes the monsters in this red dungeon should be far more powerful due to the magical surge. Yet, he's now strong enough to overwhelm them without even needing to use his regression ability. Luluheart watches with a pleased expression, admitting his growth is far exceeding her expectations. She finds his rapid development truly fascinating, confirming her initial interest in him. Seeing his potential, she decides to prepare an even more grueling training regimen for him. Suddenly, a system window announces the automatic activation of his Soul Eater class ability. A strange purple energy flows from the defeated monster's body directly into him. He looks on in shock as a notification confirms his magical power, and stats have permanently increased. Luluhart explains that he just devoured the monster's soul and converted it into his own power. She reveals the true, terrifying potential of his class, the ability to grow infinitely stronger with every foe he defeats. Luluhart smirks, impressed by his quick understanding of a power that was originally hers. She then presents the second, more intriguing essence of his newfound ability. A mysterious orb of purple energy appears in front of him, and he questions what he's seeing. A system window suddenly announces a lottery for his class ability, Soul Harvest. The system quickly judges the result, confirming he has obtained the soul of the Armor Knight. He looks on in confusion, as a system window explains the Armor Knight's soul is from a former knight inhabiting armor. Luluhart clarifies that the soul is a monster's core, which can be materialized by infusing it with magical power. He channels his magic, activating the Soul Command ability to give the captured soul a physical form. The Armor Knight's soul takes form, materializing into a spectral warrior ready for battle. He marvels at the result, but Luluhart scoffs, insisting his new power is far beyond mere summoning magic. She explains his summoned knight only looks like a puppet because his magic is still too weak. Luluhart reveals that at its full potential, soul materialization is an ability akin to creating life. Yukari is left speechless, contemplating the godlike implications of his new power.
He recalls that despite her current small form, his mentor is an overwhelmingly powerful demon king.
She glares at him with a menacing look, promising to put him through the most grueling training imaginable. His summoned knight engages another armored monster, their blades clashing in a shower of purple sparks. Yukari observes the battle, assessing the combat capabilities of his newly materialized servant. Seeing an opening, he leaps forward to deliver a decisive downward slash with his demonic sword. The powerful strike connects, completely shattering the enemy knight in a single fluid motion. With the monster defeated, a new purple soul orb materializes, offering him another chance to grow stronger. He reaches for the defeated knight's essence, preparing to absorb its soul. A system window confirms he has successfully obtained the Armor Knight's soul, adding it to his collection. Luluhart observes his progress, noting that he's quickly getting the hang of his new abilities. He realizes his current magical power only allows him to summon the knight for a few minutes, fueling his desire to get stronger. His newfound drive earns a pleased smile from the Demon King, who notes his budding ambition. After clearing the lesser foes, they arrive in a chamber engulfed in flames, the lair of the dungeon's boss. Having collected 3 souls, Yukari holds the swirling orbs of power in his hand, ready for the next step. The Demon King acknowledges his rapid progress, preparing to unleash the final test of this dungeon. A massive crimson-armored knight materializes, its glowing eyes locking onto the intruders. As the final boss looms over them, Luluhart announces that this is the last enemy they need to defeat. Yukari grips his sword, confirming his readiness for the final confrontation. His eyes burn with resolve as he prepares for his very first official boss battle. The scene cuts away to the grand office of the S-rank guild, Hyaka Ryurin. A panicked guild member rushes through the halls, desperately seeking her superior. She clutches an urgent report, its contents featuring a picture of Yukari Kanzaki. The report is for Sakurako Orimachi, the S-rank guild master and Sayara's powerful older sister. The staffer bursts into the main chamber, urgently trying to get the guild master's attention. She reports that a power surge has turned an E-rank dungeon into a deadly red dungeon. Sakurako turns, her expression hardening as she realizes the gravity of the situation. She calmly issues orders, dispatching B-rank players to handle the unexpected crisis. The staffer confirms that a lone E-rank player, Yukari Kanzaki, is trapped inside. The guildmaster finds the name strangely familiar, trying to place it. With a dismissive smirk, she declares that a mere E-rank player is of no consequence. She then requests her usual report from the subordinate, who quickly complies. The staffer presents a list of all the individuals who approached her sister, Sarah, the day before. A dark, possessive aura erupts from Sakurako as she scorns anyone who dared get close to her beloved sister. Her eyes glow with a menacing intensity as she carefully reviews the list of names. Her focus lands on a specific photo, questioning the image of Yukari and Sayara together at a cafe. The subordinate calmly explains that the photo was taken during their lunch meeting. Staring at the picture, Sakurako's memory clicks into place, her expression darkening as she finally remembers Yukari. She recalls the mock battle, admitting she was too focused on her sister's fighting style to notice him. The name Yukari Kanzaki now resonates with a sense of intense irritation. A menacing aura surrounds her as she dismisses him as just another lowlife trying to get close to Sayara. Back in the dungeon, a system window announces Yukari has reached the fiery boss room. A stark notification reveals this is his 24th regression, showing he's died repeatedly. He fights with desperation, frustrated by the boss's overwhelming power, while Lulu Heart looks on with boredom. The Demon King smirks, confirming that this is no ordinary dungeon boss. She explains the foe has been empowered by the Red Dungeon's magical surge, making it a formidable challenge. He furiously questions her definition of an easy dungeon, but she simply reminds him this is how he'll grow stronger. Realizing he's been tricked, he turns back to the fight, regretting ever trusting his demonic mentor. The Crimson Knight brings its massive sword down, aiming to crush him in a single blow. He grits his teeth in frustration, his glowing eyes revealing the immense pressure he's under. Yukari realizes the power gap is too vast, knowing a single mistake will be his last. He desperately struggles to block a devastating beam of energy from the empowered boss. Yet, he finds an opening, realizing his attacks are slowly but surely chipping away at his foe. The boss pauses for a moment, its glowing visor fixed on the surprisingly resilient human. To survive the next onslaught, he activates his Lost Man skill, preparing to endure the inevitable. He discards the sensation of pain, allowing him to withstand a direct, powerful hit from the knight. A system window confirms his health has dropped, triggering his soul loss and abyss soul abilities. A surge of demonic energy erupts from him as his magical power dramatically increases. He embraces the power of soul loss, a risky ability that supercharges his magic as his health plummets. With a look of grim determination, he grits his teeth, knowing the true battle has only just begun. Yukari activates his soul command, preparing to materialize one of the souls he previously harvested. A spectral armor knight appears at his command, tasked with drawing the boss's attention away from him. He instructs his new servant to focus solely on defense, creating an opening for his own attack. The summoned knight engages the Crimson boss, unable to deal damage but successfully serving as a vital distraction. Yukari joins the defensive effort, realizing he can at least keep the powerful enemy occupied. Together, he and his spectral ally manage to parry a devastating blow from the dungeon's final guardian. The Crimson Knight's glowing visor turns, its attention shifting from the summon directly to Yukari. Now the primary target, he prepares to activate his soul command again, ready for the next phase of his plan. He materializes a second Armor Knight soul, creating another spectral servant to join the fray. With two summons now in the field, he orders them to keep attacking while the boss targets him. His spectral knights relentlessly assault the Crimson boss, creating the perfect distraction. He reflects on his many deaths, realizing he's finally memorized the boss's attack patterns. Lulu Heart watches with approval, impressed by his coordinated strategy and newfound caution. A smug smile crosses her face as she notes that pressure only makes him shine brighter. The scene shifts back to the Hayaka Ryorin Guild headquarters, where a serious discussion is underway. Sakurako remarks that the Red Dungeon situation is convenient, much to her subordinate's confusion. She explains that Red Dungeons form when a gate's magical power spirals out of control. The difficulty skyrockets to impossible levels, a challenge no mere rookie could ever hope to survive alone. She tears his photo in half, confident he's already been eliminated by the dungeon's horrors. With a cold smile, she assumes that Yukari Kanzaki has already met his inevitable end. Her eyes gleam with chilling possessiveness, believing anyone who approaches her sister deserves to perish. Her subordinate simply smiles, readily agreeing with her master's dark decree. Sakurako's thoughts drift to the battle, imagining the rookie's hopeless struggle inside the dungeon. But a flicker of doubt crosses her face as she considers an unlikely possibility. She ponders what would happen if, against all odds, an E-rank beginner actually cleared a red dungeon. Back in the fight, Yukari activates Soul Loss, gaining a massive mana boost but also a crippling fear debuff. He instantly uses Lost Man to nullify the fear, as Sakurako concludes such a feat would shatter the entire player ranking system. A notification warns his health has plummeted below 10%, but his eyes only burn brighter with grim determination. A system notification confirms his Abyss Soul has entered a hyperactive state, pushing his magical power to its absolute limit. He unleashes a final, desperate torrent of demonic energy, overwhelming the Crimson Knight with everything he has left. The Demon King watches with a knowing smirk, her plan to forge him into a true powerhouse coming to fruition. Sakurako realizes that if he succeeds, it will be an unprecedented event that shatters all known records. A system window confirms the Knight of Flames has been defeated, dropping a rare item as a reward. He successfully harvests the boss's soul, absorbing the essence of the powerful Knight of Flames. The scene cuts back to Sakurako's private room within the opulent Hayaka Ryorin Guild headquarters. She stares in utter disbelief, struggling to process the news that Yukari Kanzaki actually cleared the Red Dungeon. Her subordinate excitedly confirms the unbelievable report, adding that he accomplished the feat completely alone. Sakurako reflects on the impossible difficulty, knowing a rookie should never have survived the dungeon's empowered monsters. The staffer adds that this is the same Yukari Kanzaki who defeated the notorious player killer, Kei Akizuki. Sakurako recalls the mock battle, noting that while her sister's technique was unrefined, Yukari fought with a complete and unnerving lack of fear, as if death meant nothing to him. She remembers the chilling, deadly aura that filled his eyes during their duel. The combination of impossible feats and raw power has officially piqued her interest. She issues a new command: investigate everything there is to know about Yukari Kanzaki. Deciding he's a potential asset, she orders a subordinate named Kazuki to hand over her C-rank unit. The subordinate Kazuki recoils in shock, questioning the sudden and drastic command. Sakurako's gaze turns icy as she makes it clear she does not like to repeat herself. Intimidated by her master's overwhelming presence, the subordinate can only flinch in silent compliance. Sakurako leans in close, her eyes glowing as she issues a chilling ultimatum to her subordinate. She challenges him to prove he's more capable than Yukari, effectively pitting them against each other. The subordinate, Hazuki, clenches his fist in silent rage, forced to accept the task of investigating Yukari. Sakurako smirks, easily reading his barely concealed murderous intent as he walks away. She coldly muses that if Yukari dies during this investigation, it will simply prove his weakness. With a confident smile, she admits she's looking forward to seeing the interesting results of her little test. The scene shifts to a D-rank dungeon, where Yukari and Sarah have gathered with a new team. Sarah announces their plan to clear the dungeon, joined by 3 members from her sister's guild, Hyaka Ryuran. The C-rank player, Hazuki Shikimura, steps forward, introducing himself as the party leader for the mission. Yukari politely shakes his hand, completely unaware that his new party leader has been ordered to test him. The rest of Hazuki's unit is introduced: the C-rank sage, Ayaha Suzumura, and the D-rank sorcerer, Shohado. Saera proudly announces to the group that Yukari recently cleared a red dungeon all on his own. He humbly dismisses the feat as just luck, but Saera encourages him to be proud of his accomplishment. A C-rank assassin named Yumeho Senzaki approaches, intrigued by the rumored rookie. Accompanying her is Yuha Ishibashi, a quiet D-rank enchanter with a wide area effect skill. A D-rank warrior, Taiyo Yamamoto, openly admires Yukari's feat, feeling stuck at his own rank. Sarah quickly chimes in, offering words of encouragement to the dejected warrior. While the new acquaintances bond, Hazuki observes their friendly interactions from a distance. Yukari's friendly smile is met with Hazuki's cold stare, his eyes glowing with hidden animosity. With the party formed, they step into the D-rank dungeon, unaware of the hostility brewing within their ranks. Inside the dungeon, a legion of skeletal knights emerges from the darkness, their eyes glowing with a sinister purple light. The party is immediately overwhelmed as the sorcerer Shohado panics at the sheer number of enemies swarming them. Hazuki barks orders at his panicked teammates, demanding they hold their formation no matter what. The assassin Yumeho argues back, insisting that rigid tactics won't work against this unexpected onslaught. Even the C-rank sage, Ayaha, is frustrated, wondering why the supposedly elite guild members are struggling so badly. The skeletal horde presses forward, their relentless advance baffling the experienced players. A skeletal knight unleashes a foul miasma, a debilitating attack called Breath of Corruption. The warrior Taiyo struggles to maintain the front line, realizing the poison is shattering their defensive formation. He's caught completely off guard as a skeletal knight looms over him, preparing to deliver a crushing blow. With his defenses broken, the warrior grits his teeth in despair, believing their raid is already over. But just in time, Yukari unleashes a powerful slash, his sword glowing with purple energy to block the fatal blow. He helps the stunned warrior to his feet, who expresses his gratitude for the last-second save. Taking charge, Yukari declares he will lure the monsters in the rear, instructing the warrior to hold the front line. The 2 men split up, charging into the horde as Saera watches their impromptu plan unfold. Hazuki erupts in fury, berating Yukari for disrupting his commands and breaking the formation. Ignoring the outburst, a system window confirms Yukari has used his Lost Man skill to discard the sensation of pain. He calls out to Lulu Heart, asking her to infuse him with magical power to draw the monster's attention. The Demon King casually obliges, gathering a potent sphere of purple energy in her hand. A massive wave of demonic power erupts from Yukari, who stands ready with his sword. The entire skeletal horde turns, their glowing eyes now fixed solely on him. Lulu Heart looks on in confusion, surprised by his casual nickname for her. She furiously objects to the nickname, dropping her popcorn in a fit of pique as he continues his charge. He ignores her outburst, leaping into the air to unleash a devastating attack on the skeletons below. The Demon King seethes with rage, furious at his complete lack of respect. A system window confirms his Soul Trial ability has activated, granting him a boost in mana. He immediately discards the resulting Hatred debuff, unleashing a powerful wave of energy that cuts through the horde. He realizes the skeleton's poisonous miasma is hindering his movements, even if the monsters themselves are slow. With a look of intense focus, he decides to use his Lost Man skill to nullify the poison's effect. A system notification confirms the poison has been completely purged from his body, leaving him stunned by the skill's versatility. He comes to a profound realization. His skill can treat any status effect, positive or negative, as a part of himself to be discarded. Freed from the poison's effects, he unleashes his full power, ready to attack with renewed aggression. He recalls the overwhelming power of the Red Dungeon monsters, realizing these skeletons are a pale comparison. He effortlessly carves through the skeletal horde, finding them slow and lacking the will of his previous foes. The C-rank sage watches in disbelief, questioning how a supposed E-rank player can be so powerful. The warrior Tayo looks on in awe, finally understanding the true strength required to conquer a red dungeon. With his eyes glowing with demonic power, he focuses his intent on the final remaining skeleton. A final, devastating slash of purple energy completely shatters the last monster in his path. Sierra and the warrior can only stare in stunned silence at the overwhelming display of power. Standing victorious amidst the fallen monsters, he turns to check on his stunned party members. Hazuki glares from the background, his expression a mixture of fury and resentment at being so thoroughly upstaged. Sarah points out that he didn't just help, he single-handedly wiped out most of the enemies. He humbly deflects the praise, insisting it was a team effort and crediting their support. From a distance, Hazuki watches their friendly exchange, his resentment quietly festering. His eyes burn with rage as he silently curses the rookie for stealing the spotlight. He recalls his master's chilling command to prove he was more capable than Yukari. The memory fuels his bitter resolve to show everyone that he is the more talented player. Snapping back to the present, Hazuki furiously confronts Yukari for disobeying his orders. Yukari calmly explains his actions were necessary, but Hazuki insists the flawed strategy was part of his plan. Enraged by the defiance, Hazuki seethes at the rookie's perceived arrogance. Sierra jumps to Yukari's defense, angrily reminding Hazuki that his plan was getting the rear guard pummeled. Hazuki lashes out, accusing Sierra of being arrogant due to her status as a famous model. Sierra fires back, insisting her fame has nothing to do with his failed leadership. He pulls rank, boasting that the guildmaster herself appointed him leader and demanding respect. She scoffs in frustration, while the other female party members look on with clear disapproval. The rest of the party looks on uncomfortably as their leader's argument escalates. Hazuki's face twists with resentment, his pride wounded by the public challenge to his authority. Yukari watches the internal conflict unfold, realizing the party's cohesion is falling apart. He calmly steps in, reminding everyone that they are in a dangerous dungeon and need to focus. Sierra quickly agrees, suggesting they reset their formation and work together properly. Though still fuming, Hazuki reluctantly concedes, unable to argue against Sierra's reasonable suggestion. Lulu Heart floats above, disgusted by the party's bickering and declaring humans are as ugly as ever. But she considers something even more infuriating than their petty squabbles. She erupts in fury, reminding him that he, a mere human, dared to give her a nickname. He calmly explains his reasoning, suggesting a shorter name is more practical for combat. His confused expression shows he doesn't understand why she's so upset over a simple nickname. With a defeated sigh, she relents, telling him to do as he pleases. Shifting focus, she fiercely reminds him of his mission, to collect the souls of the monsters here. He accepts her command with a confident smirk, ready to continue the hunt. The party ventures deeper, eventually reaching a large chamber with a fork in the road. Hazuki's resentment boils over as he recalls his orders, furious that Yukari is acting like the party's true leader. His eyes gleam with ambition, determined to be the one who defeats the dungeon boss. With a sly smile, he suggests splitting the party into two groups to cover more ground. While Sierra agrees, Yukari expresses concern, sensing the potential danger in dividing their forces. Hazuki begins forming his team, strategically selecting the sage Ayaha to join him. He then summons the buffer and the shield warrior, assembling a balanced defensive unit for his side. Yukari questions the decision, but the warrior simply defers to their leader's command. The warrior offers a reassuring smile, vowing to protect the other team from his side. Yukari is moved by the warrior's genuine concern and sense of duty. Hazuki then turns his attention to the remaining members of his guild unit, Shohato and Yumeho Senzaki. He orders the sorcerer, Shohato, to join Yukari's group and continue observing him, revealing his true intentions. The sorcerer, Sho, internally complains, feeling like a mere background character in a drama between his superiors. He sighs in exasperation, clearly fed up with the mission and just wanting to go home. A system window confirms the members of Party A, Hazuki, Ayaha, Tayo, and Yuha. Another window displays Party B, consisting of Yukari, Sarah, Yumeho, and the reluctant sorcerer, Sho. The two parties split up, heading down their separate paths into the ominous dungeon corridors. Yukari's team is suddenly ambushed, and he immediately takes command, vowing to draw the enemy's attention. A system window confirms he's activated his Lost Man skill, once again discarding the sensation of pain. He calls on Lulu Heart for support, and she reluctantly gathers a sphere of demonic energy to empower him. The entire skeletal horde turns in unison, their glowing eyes now fixed solely on the powered-up Yukari. He charges headfirst into the swarm of monsters, ready to carve a path through the undead legion. Sierra unleashes a wave of fire with her maid's cooking skill, impressed by his performance. The assassin Yumeho joins the fray, striking a monster with a powerful sonic blow. Meanwhile, the sorcerer Sho looks on nervously as a skeleton closes in on him. Yukari purges the poison from his system, unleashing a devastating slash that stuns the sorcerer. Impressed by his perfect target management, Sho prepares to cast his own spell, Cold Bolt. A barrage of ice shards rains down, providing support as Yukari battles amidst the horde. Sho marvels at his teammates' incredible judgment and battlefield awareness. Following Sarah's signal, Yukari moves in to deliver a powerful finishing blow. With the monster defeated, a system window confirms he has successfully obtained the Skull Guardian soul. He examines the captured soul, learning it's the essence of a knight who fought to the very end. The assassin Yumeho celebrates their success, finding the battle far easier without Hazuki's stressful instructions. She gives Yukari a complimentary wink, clearly impressed by his effective leadership. The sorcerer Sho agrees, admitting that their progress is much smoother now. Sierra praises their well-coordinated teamwork, with the entire group now fighting in perfect harmony. Yukari humbly deflects the credit, insisting their victory was a result of everyone's efforts. Lulu Heart privately reminds him of his true mission, as he conceals his aggressive soul hunting from the party. After 2 hours of fighting, Sierra suggests a break, but Yukari's attention is suddenly drawn down the hall. He and Yumeho spot two figures hurrying down a distant, ominous corridor. It's Hazuki and the sage Ayaha, running in a desperate panic without the rest of their group. Yukari and Sarah look on with concern, questioning why their party leader is alone and where the others have gone. Hazuki nervously claims they were just retrieving something they forgot, while Ayaha looks away guiltily. Yukari finds their story suspicious, demanding to know the whereabouts of the other two party members. The C-rank leader stammers, offering a flimsy excuse that they decided to split up for a while. Yukari questions the foolishness of their decision, remembering Sierra's unique lie-detecting ability. With a subtle shake of her head, Sarah confirms to Yukari that Hazuki is definitely lying. Yukari confronts the party leader directly, accusing him of abandoning their teammates. Hazuki tries to reassure them, but Sierra's intense glare shows she knows the awful truth. She realizes with horror that the warrior and the enchanter have been left in grave danger. Without a second's hesitation, Yukari dashes past them to rescue the abandoned players. He races down the corridor, furious that he underestimated just how terrible their leader truly was. He races through the dungeon, desperately hoping his abandoned teammates are still alive. He asks Lulu Heart for their location, who can only point him in the general direction. He berates himself for not realizing the depths of Hazuki's treachery sooner. As they round a corner, they spot the two abandoned players surrounded by monsters. He unleashes a powerful attack, clearing a path through the monsters blocking his way. His urgency grows, praying that he's not too late to save Yamamoto and Ishibashi. They arrive at a massive, glowing red gate, realizing the others have been trapped in the boss room. Inside, the warrior Taiyo looks on in despair, unable to believe he was left behind to die. Hazuki reveals his cruel plan, declaring the abandoned players will be a useful sacrifice. Driven by a mad ambition to become an elite, he leaves his teammates to their fate. The enchanter lies defeated as the warrior apologizes for his failure to protect her. He struggles to stand, regretting that his only wish was to ensure her escape. The dungeon boss looms over them as the warrior's strength finally gives out. The monstrous boss raises its axe, preparing to deliver the final crushing blow. Resigned to his fate, the warrior accepts that this is the end of his journey. He clutches a ring, asking his children for forgiveness in his final moments. The simple ring on his finger begins to glow with a faint, mysterious light. His despair turns to a final, grim resolve as he prepares to face his end. His eyes widen in shock as an unexpected figure suddenly appears before him. Yukari arrives just in time, his sword blocking the fatal attack as he apologizes for his late arrival. He declares with fierce determination that he will handle the rest of the fight. The rescued warrior can only stare in stunned disbelief at his unexpected savior. Yukari glances back at the fallen players, urging his teammate to be cautious. He then charges forward, drawing the monstrous boss's attention and leading the way. Lulu Heart appears above him, snapping him back to focus for the coming battle. He realizes why the previous monsters felt so weak as he parries another blow. Luluhart explains that this boss has been siphoning the power from the entire dungeon. Understanding the threat, he activates Soul Trial, gaining a mana boost but also a confusion debuff. He instantly purges the negative effect with Lost Man, clearing his mind as the boss closes in. The empowered boss unleashes a devastating fiery arc, which Yukari prepares to meet head-on. He grits his teeth, shocked by the sheer speed of the boss's massive axe. Yukari narrowly dodges a sweeping arc of fiery energy, leaning back just in time. With renewed focus, he prepares to counter, his eyes glowing with purple power. He unleashes a powerful slash, striking the monstrous boss directly in its chest. To his shock, he realizes the powerful blow didn't even make the creature flinch. The sheer weight of the boss's axe nearly overwhelms him as he struggles to parry. Seeing a brief opening, he prepares to exploit the boss's momentary pause. He aims a precise glowing strike at the monster's leg, hoping to shatter its stance. The boss looks down, completely unfazed, as Yukari stares up in disbelief. Despite landing a direct hit, he's forced back on the defensive, realizing his attacks are useless. He grits his teeth, realizing the power gap is too vast for him to inflict any real damage. To stand a chance, he knows he needs a massive surge of magical power. He activates Soul Trial for a power boost, then immediately uses Lost Man to purge the resulting fear debuff. With his mind cleared and power surging, he charges back into the fray with renewed vigor. Luluhart smirks, noting how conveniently he can discard the negative emotions tied to his power-ups. He pushes his limits further, activating Soul Trial again for a level 3 boost, this time gaining an impatience debuff. He once again purges the negative effect, unleashing a powerful slash with his fully amplified magic. His empowered blade clashes against the boss's weapon, the impact sending sparks flying. With his eyes glowing with newfound confidence, he believes he finally has a chance to win. His attacks finally begin to connect, and he realizes that with even more power, victory is within his grasp. He pushes his power even further, activating a level 4 Soul Trial, and receiving a crippling Sloth debuff. He instantly discards the Sloth debuff, his eyes burning with the desire for even greater strength. But the constant purging of his own emotions suddenly leaves him looking confused and disoriented. A system window flashes, warning that his human verification level is plummeting dangerously low. He clutches his head in a daze, suddenly vulnerable as the power he's been abusing backfires. Luluhart watches with alarm, realizing he's pushed his unique skill too far. The dungeon boss immediately seizes the opportunity, its glowing eye locking onto the defenseless Yukari. It brings its massive axe down in a devastating strike, hitting him squarely while he's incapacitated. But instead of being crushed, a massive explosion of demonic energy erupts from him, sending the boss reeling. He's left kneeling and exhausted, horrified to discover that his body has become completely unresponsive. Luluhart urgently explains that his Lost Man skill is eroding his very being. A system window reveals he's discarded core emotions like fear and impatience, losing essential parts of himself. He looks up in a daze, completely unaware of his own peril and questioning her desperate expression. She panics, realizing that if this continues, he won't just fail the trial, he'll lose his identity forever. Her warnings fall on deaf ears, and she worries he'll have to face the true consequences of the Soul Trial. She knows that if he's forced to regress in this state, the mental backlash would be catastrophic. With a look of grim resolve, she decides she has no other choice but to intervene directly. The Demon King unleashes her power, creating a massive magic circle as a one-time special service. The dungeon boss recoils, stunned by the sudden, overwhelming surge of demonic energy. Declaring he should be grateful, she prepares to bestow a portion of her immense power upon him. She declares that he is about to receive some special personal attention. The Demon King proudly proclaims that she will now personally be his opponent. She summons a spectral version of the boss, creating a new challenge for him to face. With a smug smile, she instructs him to overcome this new soul trial to regain his senses. As his consciousness fades, he's bombarded by painful memories of his past failures. He relives a moment of deep despair, trapped in a dark abyss of his own mind. He remembers a doctor coldly informing him that he was skillless and barred from entering dungeons. He recalls the anger of a former teammate who felt deceived by his lack of abilities. The memory shifts to him being cast out of a party, labeled as completely useless by his peers. He's confronted by a former acquaintance, who bluntly tells him to accept reality and give up his dream. He recalls a woman's voice telling him that his only option is to run away immediately. The memory shifts to him on the ground, being told that this is why pampered kids like him always perish. He finds himself in a watery abyss, recognizing this as the manifestation of his worst memory. Completely disoriented, he looks around the strange ethereal space, questioning where he is. His confusion turns to dawning horror as he begins to understand the nature of his predicament. A system window announces the start of the soul trial, as he's confronted by a vision of his younger self. He stares in shock, unable to believe he's facing another version of himself. The spectral doppelganger offers a smug smile, making him question if he's losing his mind. His other self confirms this is a soul trial, revealing it to be one of the Demon King's own abilities. A surge of purple energy reveals the trial's true purpose, to amplify his desires and forcibly enhance his soul. His spectral twin points accusingly, claiming he's been ignoring a fundamental truth. He explains that Yukari's unique skill is the very reason he's been able to avoid this confrontation. The doppelganger grabs him by the collar, declaring it's time for him to finally face his inner demons. The trial's purpose is revealed, to make him confront the emotions and sense of self-worth he has discarded. Yukari recoils in denial, clutching his chest as the painful truth begins to sink in. He desperately tries to reject the idea, believing it's impossible for him to have lost so much of himself. His other self taunts him, stating that because he started with nothing, he's destined to keep losing everything. The doppelganger cruelly insists that he is, and always will be, someone who can never truly change. The crushing final verdict echoes in the abyss. He is fundamentally incapable of changing. Back in the boss room, the spectral knight created by Lulu Heart lunges forward to begin the physical trial. Lulu Heart leaps into action, clashing directly with the spectral boss she created. She grits her teeth, the immense strain of the battle evident on her face. The impact of their collision creates a massive shockwave of red energy. Thrown back, the Demon King lands on the ground, admitting she knew this would be difficult. She realizes with frustration that she's almost helpless against this weakened version of the boss. Stamping her foot, she seethes at the infuriating display of her own limited power. Her thoughts turn to Yukari, determined not to show him such a pathetic sight. With renewed resolve, she accepts that holding the line is the only thing she can do for him now. The spectral boss raises its massive weapon, preparing to strike her down. With a look of fierce determination, she prepares to parry the devastating blow. She glares at the spectral boss, defiantly drawing its attention to herself. Lulu Heart's expression hardens with conviction, believing Yukari will prove the worth of his own soul. She puts her faith in him to overcome this trial, while he remains lost in his mental battle. Inside the abyss, Yukari mulls over the trial's purpose, to prove his own worth. A sudden, cynical smile crosses his face as he questions the entire premise of the trial. He confronts his other self, completely unimpressed by the challenge to his identity. He begins to reflect on his past, wondering if his entire life has been a mistake. His thoughts drift to a bleak conclusion, accepting that he might be destined to keep losing things. But then he has a revelation, realizing it was his perceived weakness that allowed him to meet Lulu Heart. Memories flash through his mind, showing that his journey with her began because of the person he was. He realizes that every past failure was a necessary step on the path that led him to the Demon King. And because of that meeting, he was given the once-in-a-lifetime chance to save the world. He accepts that he may have nothing to call his own, and that his life might have been a mistake. But despite it all, he fiercely rejects the notion that his choices were ever wrong. With newfound conviction, he grabs his other self, declaring his intent to stop the dungeon break. His resolve hardens into a single unshakable vow. He will be the one to save the world. A system window confirms he has reused Lost Man, turning the skill inward on his own fractured psyche. He begins to reabsorb all the emotions he discarded, embracing the pain, fear, and confusion once more. A new notification warns that his existence verification level has now plummeted below a critical threshold. Lulu Heart watches with a knowing smirk, realizing he's just chosen a path with no return. The Lost Man skill glows, signifying a profound change in its very nature. He fully accepts his bond with the Demon King, realizing their fates are inextricably linked. A surge of power flows between them as she offers a part of her own essence to him. A system window confirms the transfer of Lulu Heart's magical essence has begun. Her sacrifice stabilizes his crumbling existence, but at the direct cost of her own power. Back in the boss room, the mental prison shatters as his consciousness finally returns. Lulu Heart stands her ground, desperately fending off the spectral boss's relentless attacks. She looks up with a relieved smirk, chiding him for taking so long to come back. Yukari bursts back into reality, intercepting the boss's attack just in time to save her. With a confident grin, he apologizes for the delay and declares he's taking over the fight. The Demon King smirks, acknowledging his decision to embrace the true nature of his Lost Man's skill. He confirms his resolve with a decisive swing, his blade crackling with purple energy. He stands beside her, now certain that there was only ever one correct path for him to take. Lulu Heart gives a playful wink, her curiosity piqued by his newfound conviction. Their attention shifts back to the spectral boss, which looms over them with menacing red energy. He braces for the boss's attack, recognizing its predictable patterns with newfound confidence. His glowing blade meets the boss's weapon in a shower of sparks, effortlessly deflecting the blow. The spectral knight recoils in apparent shock, caught off guard by his opponent's sudden surge in strength. He feels the immense power coursing through him, realizing the soul trial has boosted his magic 5 times over. Luluhart smiles, acknowledging the tremendous power he's gained was worth the high price, and he silently agrees. With Luluhart at his side, he announces with a smirk that the time for defense is over. He unleashes a fierce battle cry, his eyes burning with newfound power and determination. His blade slams against the boss's weapon, creating a brilliant explosion of light and power. His overwhelming power sends the spectral knight reeling, completely overpowering its defense. A flicker of surprise crosses his face as he realizes the true extent of his amplified strength. Wasting no time, he presses the attack with another sweeping arc of demonic energy. The spectral boss seems stunned, its glowing red eye wide with disbelief at his sudden power. Its shock quickly turns to rage as the boss lunges forward for a desperate counterattack. A system window confirms he has once again used Lost Man to discard his fear, meeting the charge with unnerving calm. Unflinching, he watches the massive weapon descend, his eyes filled with cold, calculated resolve. He moves with blinding speed, his expression a mask of pure focus as he dodges the attack. Instead of his sword, he delivers a devastating kick, shattering the boss's guard with a blast of purple energy. The sheer force of the blow sends the spectral knight skidding backward across the chamber floor. He recalls a painful lesson from Luluhart, realizing her harsh training prepared him for this very moment. Enraged, the spectral boss rises again, its body glowing with an even more menacing red aura. In a last-ditch effort, the boss prepares to unleash its ultimate skill against him. It reveals its trump card, summoning a legion of skeletal minions to overwhelm them. Luluhart fearlessly taunts the new horde, drawing the attention of every single monster. Yukari cries out in alarm, watching his partner deliberately put herself in the line of fire. But she just smirks, sensing the boss has exhausted its power and urging him to finish the fight. With a confident grin, he confirms his readiness to follow her lead. The spectral boss continues its summoning ritual, confident in its overwhelming numbers. But Yukari reveals his own trump card, declaring that summoning isn't a one-sided privilege. He materializes the souls of the Armor Knight and Skull Guardian, creating his own spectral soldiers. His newly summoned knights move to intercept the boss's minions, protecting Luluhart from the horde. With the lesser threats occupied, he charges directly at the distracted spectral boss. He grits his teeth, clashing with the boss's massive weapon in a brilliant explosion of power. Luluhart smirks from the sidelines, declaring that the boss's time is now officially up. His summoned knight effortlessly carves through the enemy skeletons with a sweeping arc of purple energy. He acknowledges how hard Luluhart has fought for him, her efforts fueling his determination to win. His face twists with raw determination, refusing to back down as purple energy swirls around him. The spectral boss's massive weapon fractures under the immense pressure of his relentless attack. Luluhart desperately screams his name, pouring all her hope into his final push for victory. He lets out a final, ferocious battle cry, pouring every last ounce of strength into his attack. In a climactic explosion of purple energy, his final strike completely obliterates the spectral boss. At that moment, Sarah and the others finally arrive at the boss room, calling out his name in panic. Completely drained, he lies on the floor but manages a weak smile to let Sierra know he's all right. The sorcerer and assassin look on in stunned silence, questioning if he really defeated the boss all by himself. Sierra looks down at him with a mix of relief and frustration, pointing out that he's gotten himself badly hurt yet again. He pushes aside her concern, directing her to rescue the abandoned party members, and she immediately agrees to help. But a chilling voice cuts through the chaos, declaring that their help will not be necessary. Hazuki steps forward with a sinister smile, ordering everyone to freeze as a dark aura envelops him. He reveals his hostage, the unconscious sage, coldly stating that her life is now in his hands. Yukari and Sarah can only stare in utter shock, unable to process their leader's sudden betrayal. Still weakened, Yukari demands to know the reason for this madness as Hazuki's power surges. Hazuki mockingly echoes the question, clearly relishing the moment before his confession. His face twists with fury and resentment as he screams that this is all Yukari's fault. He points an accusing finger, his long festering jealousy finally erupting in a torrent of blame. Hazuki's obsession becomes clear as he declares that proving his superiority is the only thing that matters. Sarah desperately pleads with him to stop, but he coldly informs her that he has long since passed the point of no return. Hazuki clutches his chest, tormented by the memory of his terrifying guildmaster, Sakurako Orimachi. Sarah tries to reason with him, vowing to speak with her sister herself to sort out the situation. He cruelly asks if she truly believes their unforgiving leader would ever pardon someone for failure. His chilling question leaves Sierra and the others speechless, realizing the depth of his desperation. Fueled by his all-consuming jealousy, Hazuki points at the exhausted hero and challenges him to a duel. While Yumeho protests that he's in no condition to fight, Yukari grimly accepts the challenge. The sorcerer rushes to his side, urging him not to fight, but Yukari simply thanks him for his concern. With grim determination, he forces himself to his feet, convinced that he is the only one who can end this. Screaming with murderous rage, Hazuki lunges forward, his body wreathed in a sinister red aura. Yukari grits his teeth, barely managing to parry the powerful blow as their blades clash with a shower of sparks. Hazuki's face contorts with desperation, convinced that defeating Yukari is his only path to recognition. He can't believe his opponent is still standing, noting how battered and exhausted Yukari appears. The C-rank leader seethes, frustrated that his superior stats aren't enough to end the fight. He's stunned to see that despite the damage, Yukari's eyes still burn with an unyielding, defiant fire. A system window confirms Yukari's health has plummeted to a dangerously low level. But this triggers a new power-up, as his Abyss Soul hyperactivates, restoring and boosting his magic. With a cold smirk, Yukari taunts his opponent, claiming to know a far more ruthless killer. He declares that Hazuki lacks a true understanding of death, his hand glowing with ominous purple energy. In response, Hazuki activates his own class ability, preparing to use his Soul Command skill. But Yukari counters with his own Soul Command, summoning a powerful Skull Lich Lord to the battlefield. The summoned Skull Lich Lord towers over the battlefield, radiating an overwhelming purple aura. Hazuki can only stare in utter disbelief, completely caught off guard by this sudden development. Yukari stands beside his new spectral soldier, calmly commanding the immense power he's just unleashed. The sorcerer and assassin are speechless, their minds struggling to comprehend the impossible scene before them. Sarah looks on in awe, realizing the true, terrifying scale of Yukari's hidden abilities. Hazuki stammers in confusion, questioning if Yukari was secretly a summoner this entire time. The assassin Yumeho speculates that he might be a necromancer, a far more sinister possibility. Hazuki's face twists with rage, furious that his rival was hiding such a game-changing power. Sayara calls out Yukari's family name, her voice filled with a mixture of shock and dawning understanding. With his powerful summon at the ready, Yukari declares with cold resolve that it's time to end their fight. Hazuki's furious attack is met with indifference, as the Skull Lich Lord easily deflects his blade. The sheer force of the parry sends his sword flying, leaving him completely disarmed. He collapses to the floor, his face a mask of bitter defeat and humiliation. Yukari stands over his fallen rival, his spectral guardian a testament to his absolute power. His summon prepares to deliver the finishing blow, its hand crackling with terrifying magical energy. The spectral weapon swings down, promising a swift and brutal end to the one-sided fight. His eyes widen in pure terror, reflecting the inescapable doom descending upon him. With the duel over, the treacherous leader lies defeated on the ground, his ambition utterly shattered. The sorcerer voices everyone's shock, questioning if Yukari's true class was a summoner this whole time. Leaning on his teammate for support, Yukari cryptically admits his power is merely similar to summoning. The rescued warrior expresses his heartfelt gratitude, his face filled with overwhelming relief. The enchanter echoes the sentiment, her weary smile showing just how close they came to the end. Yukari humbly gives them credit, stating their resilience was the true key to their survival. Sayara stands silently for a moment, her posture revealing her deep contemplation of the battle's aftermath. She looks on with a pained expression, troubled by the immense weight Yukari constantly carries. Watching him being supported, she feels a pang of inadequacy, wishing she had the strength to protect him. The sorcerer offers a cheerful smile, helping the exhausted Yukari stay on his feet after the ordeal. Sayara's gaze hardens with newfound determination, vowing to become strong enough to fight by his side. Luluhart observes from above as the party members support one another, a rare moment of unity after the chaos. The scene transitions to the Japan Players Association headquarters, signaling the end of their perilous mission. At the association office, an official confirms Yukari's promotion to D rank is complete. She notes his lack of excitement, catching him off guard with her astute observation. A glowing emblem signifies the importance of D rank, the first major gateway for aspiring players. The official questions his muted reaction, wondering why he isn't celebrating the significant milestone. He poses a serious question, asking if a mere D-rank player could ever hope to clear an S-rank dungeon. After she dismisses the idea as impossible, he reveals that is precisely why he remains unsatisfied. With Luluhart at his side, he declares his true goal is to become stronger than even S-rank players. The official finally understands, realizing this promotion is just a minor checkpoint on his grand journey. Her initial skepticism gives way to a flicker of belief as she considers his incredible potential. With a warm smile, she expresses her newfound faith in him, eager to see the day he stands at the top of the world. As Yukari leaves the association building, a man in a suit urgently calls out to him. The man hurries over asking if he is Yukari Kanzaki, who cautiously confirms his identity. He presents a business card, revealing himself as the head of recruitment for the Cherry Dragon Guild. Suddenly, a rival recruiter angrily interrupts, claiming his guild had their eyes on Yukari first. The argument intensifies as a third man joins in, insisting the Kansai Guild alliance has priority. Caught in the middle, Yukari learns his record-breaking 2-week climb from F to D rank has made him famous. He reflects on his many regressions, realizing that what felt like months of struggle was only a fortnight in real time. Overwhelmed by the aggressive offers, he gives a flustered, non-committal answer to buy himself time. Deciding he's had enough, Yukari makes a swift escape, leaving the bickering recruiters behind. Luluheart appears with a curious smirk, remarking that she expected him to join a guild. Back at his apartment, Yukari explains his decision while Luluheart draws at a small table. He reasons that training directly under the Demon King is a far better path to power. Thrilled by his logic, she excitedly suggests they take on the infamous Luluheart dungeon. The sudden reckless suggestion leaves him completely speechless and bewildered. She looks back at him with feigned innocence, wondering why he's so hesitant. He frantically points out that her plan seems to be missing several crucial steps. He reminds her that the dungeon is an S-rank death trap, where even the strongest players have failed. She casually reveals that the legendary Unconquerable dungeon is actually her home. With a confident wink, she assures him she has a special strategy to guarantee their success. Despite her confidence, Yukari is overcome with a terrible feeling about her special strategy. The scene shifts to Hazuki pleading before his guildmaster, Sakurako, blaming Yukari for his failure. Sakurako coldly informs him that according to other players, his decision was unanimously reported as insane. He desperately stammers that the report is false, his face a mask of fear and denial. Unmoved, she grabs him by the hair, forcing him to meet her gaze. With a menacing glare, she questions if he's accusing her own sister, Sayera, of lying. In a desperate attempt to save himself, he claims that Sayera must not be in her right mind either. His accusation pushes her over the edge, causing her to unleash her 9-tailed fox power. 2 massive, glowing tails manifest behind her as she reveals she wasn't originally planning to punish him. She clarifies that even his attempt on Yukari's life was something she could have overlooked. However, she declares that insulting her beloved sister to save his own skin is a line he should never have crossed. Her eyes burn with cold fury as she vows to eliminate anyone who dares to insult her sister. He desperately tries to shift the blame, screaming that Yukari is the root of all his problems. Unmoved, she unleashes her power, trapping him within a crackling double barrier of red energy. He writhes in agony, caught within the inescapable vortex of her overwhelming power. His defiance shatters into terror as he pleads for forgiveness, begging her to stop. Ignoring his cries, her expression hardens as she converges her energy for the final blow. He reaches out in a final, desperate plea, his face a mask of terror as he faces his end. Later, under the moonlight, Sakurako calmly reviews a file, her attention now fixed on Yukari Kanzaki. She studies a photograph of the young player, her interest piqued by his recent exploits. The photograph ignites in pink flames as she decides it's time to personally verify if he is the real deal. With a sinister smile, she resolves to personally test Yukari's true capabilities. The scene shifts to the infamous Luluheart dungeon, a beacon of light in the city. A flashback begins, explaining how one day the world changed forever. An enormous otherworldly structure suddenly materialized in the heart of Shinjuku. Its arrival heralded the creation of mana, the source of all magical power on Earth. This event also triggered the birth of the first players, humans gifted with incredible skills. The world came to know this first cataclysmic gate as the Progenitor Dungeon. Back in the present, Yukari and Luluheart stand before the towering structure, ready to begin their training. While Luluheart proudly admires her magnificent home, Yukari is overwhelmed by its sheer scale. The colossal dungeon is reflected in his eye, a symbol of the immense challenge that awaits him. He recalls that the Luluheart dungeon is the world's most difficult, requiring special permission to even attempt. To their surprise, they find the guard at the entrance fast asleep on the job. Luluheart smugly explains that so few dare to challenge her dungeon that security is practically non-existent. A massive swirling blue portal activates, opening the way into the legendary S-rank dungeon. With a look of steely determination, Yukari prepares to step into the unknown. They cross the threshold, leaving the real world behind as they venture into the death trap. Instead of a cave, they find themselves inside a magnificent and impossibly vast palace hall. He stands in awe, contemplating the fact that no player has ever managed to clear this place. Confused by the grand hallway, Luluheart informs him this is the infamous Infinite Corridor. She proudly reveals that the first floor of her dungeon is a colossal castle, the size of an entire country. She explains that the castle is a massive labyrinth where one wrong turn means getting lost forever. Knowing he's terrible with mazes, she reveals she's created a special shortcut just for him. With a triumphant grin, she excitedly presents him with her special preparation. He stares in confusion, completely unsure what she's handing him. Luluheart proudly displays a hand-drawn map, complete with a red line marking the correct route. He finally realizes what she was drawing earlier, impressed that she remembers the layout in such detail. When he questions the map's accuracy, she casually mentions that after thousands of years she knows the place by heart. Her offhand comment about her age leaves him stunned, making him wonder about her life before the dungeon. He watches her lead the way, now deeply curious about the Demon King's ancient past. Consulting her own map, Luluheart confidently points them toward the first turn in the endless corridor. She continues to navigate, pointing out the next turn in the seemingly endless hallway. With her hand-drawn map as a guide, she confidently leads him straight through the labyrinth. He questions the lack of monsters, and she reveals she's intentionally chosen a safe route. She explains he's too weak for the dungeon's regular inhabitants, leaving him stunned by the difficulty spike. With a cheerful smile, she crushes his hopes of a peaceful journey, promising plenty of battles ahead. He slumps in resignation, realizing his brief moment of peace was too good to be true. They finally reach a massive door at the end of the hall, signaling the end of their safe passage. Peeking from behind a pillar, they spot their first opponent waiting in the next chamber. Luluheart identifies the small cloaked figure as Harble, noting its body is extremely fragile. She assures him that this first monster should be a quick and easy victory for him. Confident in an easy win, he charges forward to strike down the small monster. Luluheart smirks, clarifying that while fragile, the creature is still strong compared to him. Her warning catches him off guard, his momentum faltering as the monster's horn begins to glow. A brilliant green light erupts from the monster's horn as it unleashes its special ability. A system window identifies the attack as a wave of apathy, a debilitating mental assault. His eyes widen in shock as the wave of green energy washes over him completely. A notification confirms he's been afflicted with an apathetic state, leaving him frozen in place. The debuff's effects are revealed: a total loss of will, incapacitation, and extended skill cooldowns. He grits his teeth in frustration, realizing with horror that his body is completely unresponsive. Seizing the opportunity, the monster Harble lunges forward to finish off the defenseless player. He narrowly evades the monster's attack, a blur of motion against the stark white background. He angrily asks Luluheart why she didn't warn him sooner, but she calmly retorts that he rushed in before she could finish. Looking sheepish, he offers a weak apology for his reckless charge. He remarks on the creature's surprising strength, and Luluheart explains its fragile body is a trade-off for powerful mental magic. As he questions the term mental magic, she clarifies it's an ability that induces a state of complete apathy. She reveals the attack's potency is equivalent to devastating 7th-tier magic. Luluheart explains that very few possess the mental resistance to counter such an attack, let alone humans. She emphasizes that even among powerful monsters, resistance to this level of mental assault is incredibly rare. He questions the significance of 7th-tier magic, and she explains that for humans, even reaching 3rd tier is considered genius level. A helpful chart illustrates the power scale, showing that S-rank players top out at 5th tier, far below Harble's 7th tier ability. He realizes with a grim expression that this tiny monster is as powerful as an S-rank player. Luluheart casually dismisses the threat, pointing out that his lost man's skill is the perfect counter. With a confident wink, she reveals the key is to target and erase the emotion of sloth itself. The strategy clicks into place, and he understands exactly what he needs to do. They step out from their hiding spot, ready to put the plan into action all at once. She explains that defeating this monster will grant him the souls and magic needed to level up. The scene shifts to a grand chapel, where a cloaked figure named Sister Beatrice is being addressed. The nun turns, having just been informed that a new challenger has entered the Luluheart dungeon. A glowing portal signifies the arrival of a player daring to challenge the world's most sacred dungeon. A faint, curious smile plays on Sister Beatrice's lips as she processes the unexpected news. An S-rank player named Beatrice Yoriko, a saint from the Holy Dungeon Church, smirks while contemplating the challenger's sinful life. She coldly predicts that the new arrivals will likely become just another offering to the dungeon. But a sinister smile crosses her face as she considers the alternative possibility of their survival. She resolves to bestow the church's blessing upon them should they manage to return alive. Back in the dungeon, Yukari stands ready, his eyes fixed on the challenge ahead. The scene shifts to the moonlit headquarters of the S-rank guild, Cherry Dragon. Inside, a guild member excitedly recounts how Yukari came to her aid during a difficult situation. Her superior listens with a grin, clearly impressed by the tale of Yukari's bravery. The guildmaster, S-rank player Koki Senzaki, declares his newfound admiration for Yukari Kanzaki. His enthusiasm wanes as he realizes the formidable foxwoman from the 100 Flowers Guild will also be interested. He correctly deduces that Sakurako's immense pride puts Yukari in a very dangerous position. His subordinate looks to him with concern, pleading for him to intervene on Yukari's behalf. He pats her head with a reassuring smile, confidently telling her to leave everything to him. He declares with a fierce grin that he'll personally whip the young player into shape. Unimpressed by his aggressive training plan, she suggests he could just protect him normally. He immediately asks another member of his guild for Yukari Kanzaki's current location. The guild member whispers some shocking information, leaving the S-rank player completely stunned. His expression hardens as he learns that Yukari has already entered the infamous Lulu Heart dungeon. The scene cuts back to the dungeon, with a system window identifying their location as the first floor's infinite corridor. Back in the fight, the small monster Harble lets out a fierce cry as it unleashes a powerful slash. He struggles to parry the monster's surprisingly powerful slash, gritting his teeth from the force. With a look of grim focus, he realizes the sheer weight behind the creature's attacks. The small monster crouches, its physical strength proving formidable even without its mental magic. A system window announces the activation of his soul command, materializing the Spectral Armor Knight. He and his Spectral Soldier move into position, trapping the small monster in a pincer attack. The monster desperately swings its weapon, clashing with the summoned knight's blade in a shower of green sparks. Despite its size, the creature's blow sends the Spectral Knight reeling backward. With a confident smirk, he draws the monster's attention, creating an opening. Seizing the opportunity, he lands a devastating downward strike, his blade glowing with purple energy. The creature's eye widens in pure shock, unable to comprehend the coordinated assault. He activates Soul Command again, materializing the Spectral Skull Guardian to join the fight. Lulu Heart explains that the curious monster is easily distracted by new and interesting things. The Harble's attention shifts entirely to the new summon, just as Yukari had planned. With the monster's focus divided, he leaps high into the air for a surprise attack from above. He knows that with its concentration broken, the creature is now completely vulnerable. He brings his blade down in a swift, decisive arc, catching the monster completely off guard. His eyes burn with focus as he notes the creature's movements are far too slow. His sword slices cleanly through the monster, ending the fight in a single powerful strike. A system window confirms he has used Soul Harvest to absorb the defeated monster's essence. He stares in surprise at the glowing green soul now floating in his hand, feeling a surge of new power. He marvels at the incredible surge of magical power, while Lulu Heart smugly reminds him of the dungeon's high-stakes rewards. Thrilled to have captured the soul, he wastes no time preparing to summon his powerful new ally. A system window confirms the activation of Soul Command as he materializes the Harble's soul before him. The newly summoned creature appears looking surprisingly small and letting out a sleepy cry. He pauses, his expression shifting to one of intense curiosity as he studies his new summon. A gentle smile crosses his face as he reaches out to pat the creature, finding its appearance unexpectedly endearing. His friendly gesture is met with a sharp bite as the rebellious creature unexpectedly attacks his hand. He recoils in pain, shocked that a soul could attack him, while Lulu Heart explains the Harble is too strong for him to control. The defiant summon turns away with a pout, leaving him to grapple with the new knowledge that souls have their own will. Lulu Heart explains that a soul is, by its very definition, a mass of will, a concept he slowly begins to understand. She explains that a soul's power dictates its form, and to control it, he must become even stronger. They arrive at a grand chamber centered around a glowing magical fountain. He drinks from the fountain, and a system window confirms his magical power is fully restored. He expresses his relief, realizing the magic recovering spring was a true lifesaver. He considers that using the powerful Harble would quickly deplete his own limited magic reserves. Lulu Heart casually reveals that this helpful spring was actually created by the first floor boss. She describes the boss as a noble warrior who valued fair and square battles above all else. However, she notes with curiosity that for some reason, human challengers never used the spring. Yukari's expression shifts, a hint of weary understanding dawning on his face. He points out the obvious reason, a suspicious-looking sign placed right next to the fountain. He dryly notes that any sane player would assume a clearly labeled magic spring is an obvious trap. But with his magic restored, he clenches his fist, grateful for the chance to fight at full power. Lulu Heart outlines their strategy. Capture souls, then use them to defeat the next wave of monsters. This marks the beginning of their special, unconventional method for leveling up inside the dungeon. Their next opponent appears, a towering spectral knight standing guard in the magnificent hall. The knight is not alone, flanked by 2 more Harble monsters ready to attack. From behind a pillar, Yukari unleashes his own Harble, turning its mental magic against its own kind. The summoned creature unleashes a powerful wave of apathy, targeting the unsuspecting enemies. The enemy Harble is caught completely off guard, its mind overwhelmed by the debilitating mental assault. With the monsters stunned, Yukari charges forward to press the attack while they are vulnerable. He unleashes a powerful slash, cutting down the second incapacitated Harble with ease. A system window confirms he has successfully harvested another Harble soul. He celebrates his victory with a triumphant high five to his spectral knight. Lulu Hart chides him for relying on cheap tricks instead of improving his direct combat skills. He cheekily defends his strategy, arguing that using his skills is a valid part of his strength. Suddenly, a glowing, ornate key materializes as a reward from the defeated monster. He looks up in surprise, realizing the monster dropped a rare item. Lulu Hart's eyes widen with excitement, recognizing the item he's just acquired. With a sly grin, she reveals the key unlocks the dungeon's legendary treasure vault. Thrilled by the prospect of loot, he eagerly follows her as she leads him toward the treasure. With a confident wink, Lulu Hart declares it's time to claim a world-class item. Elsewhere, the S-rank player Koki considers the Lulu Hart dungeon, a place filled with incomprehensible monsters. He knows that challenging such a place alone is considered an act of pure insanity. The S-rank player wonders about the true identity of the mysterious Yukari Kanzaki. Back in the dungeon, Lulu Hart leads Yukari to a massive, ornate door, revealing it as their destination. Yukari swallows nervously, intimidated by the sheer scale of the treasure vault's entrance. The heavy doors swing open, bathing the corridor in a brilliant golden light. He steps into an impossibly lavish chamber, completely stunned by the opulent surroundings. His eyes widen in amazement at the sight of countless legendary weapons adorning the walls. Just as he reaches for a sword, Lulu Hart stops him, warning that the treasures are all trapped. Lulu Hart dismisses the legendary weapons, explaining they're here for a different prize entirely. His attention is drawn to 2 ornate chests, realizing this is their true objective. She confidently reaches into one of the chests, announcing she's found what they came for. With a casual warning, she reveals the other chest is a deadly mimic, startling him. He nervously reaches for the item, hesitant to accept such a valuable treasure. A system window reveals the item is an S-rank last elixir, a potion of legendary power. His eyes widen in disbelief, recognizing the name of the mythical healing item. He questions her generosity, but she dismisses his concerns and urges him onward. She then presents him with a world-class ring that massively boosts his magical power. Next, he's shown a pendulum with near-infinite storage, leaving him speechless at the incredible haul. She then hands him an S-rank brooch that prevents his weapons from ever losing durability. Finally, he receives a world-class ring that acts as a universal translator for all human languages. He's completely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of legendary items, questioning if he can even accept them. Lulu Hart decides against visiting other vaults, knowing they'd have to fight more monsters to get there. Clutching the priceless artifacts, he admits his concern about being gifted so much power at once. Just as they're about to leave, she stops, remembering one last thing she needs to do. She turns her attention to a display of legendary weapons, preparing for her final task in the vault. He asks what she's up to, but she only offers a mischievous smile in response. She playfully keeps her plan a secret, telling him it's a surprise for later. The scene shifts to another grand, misty chamber, hinting at the next stage of their dungeon crawl. A small cat-like elemental crackles with ferocious energy, unleashing a powerful electrical discharge. With a wicked grin, Lulu Hart prepares a counterspell, while Yukari braces for the incoming attack. She unleashes her own magic, conjuring a powerful aqua globe to intercept the attack. The elemental's lightning attack violently clashes with her aqua globe, creating a blinding flash. Seizing the moment, Yukari commands his Harble to turn the tables with its debilitating wave of apathy. The lightning elemental is caught off guard, its attack faltering as the mental magic takes hold. With the elemental stunned, he surges forward, determined to land the finishing blow. He leaps into the air, bringing his glowing blade down on the now vulnerable creature. A system window confirms he has successfully harvested the soul of the lightning element. He immediately summons his new prize, a fiery elemental that materializes before him. He desperately hopes their plan works while Lulu Hart grins with wicked confidence. The fire elemental's attack is met by a powerful wall of water magic, creating a massive cloud of steam. With the elemental's attack neutralized, Yukari and his Harble charge forward in a coordinated assault. The fiery creature's eyes widen in shock, completely unprepared for their counteroffensive. Together, they unleash a devastating pincer attack, their combined power overwhelming the elemental. A system window confirms he has harvested the fire element's soul, which now burns brightly in his hand. He collapses in exhaustion, utterly spent but relieved as Lulu Hart praises their excellent teamwork. He grimly recalls the many times he was incinerated, realizing just how many attempts this victory took. With a determined smile, he holds up a glowing pendulum, acknowledging it as the key to their success. A system window reveals the S-rank Espiritu Leone pendulum, an item that lets him damage incorporeal elementals. Lulu Heart winks, explaining the pendulum's true value, allowing physical attacks to harm normally intangible elementals. He agrees that even magic is often nullified, but the pendulum makes spiritual beings vulnerable to physical strikes. He laments his own magical weakness, recalling how a single spell completely exhausted his mana reserves. As he suggests they continue grinding for souls, Lulu Heart cuts him off with the shocking news that the boss battle is next. His face pales with shock, the sudden announcement leaving him completely speechless. He frantically argues that a boss fight is impossible, reminding her how much they struggled against mere minions. He insists they need to rank up first, as it's the only way to improve their mana circuits and class abilities. Lulu Heart's expression turns serious as she closes her eyes and calmly calls his name. She warns him that the true demon lords he aims to defeat are on an entirely different level than anything they've encountered. She explains these powerful beings will use overwhelming strength and cruel tactics to create unwinnable scenarios. She explains that to truly overcome his foes, he needs meaningful experience, not just superficial gains. Lulu Heart acknowledges the impressive collection of items and souls he's gathered with her help, but her tone shifts, her expression hardening as she prepares to deliver a harsh reality. Revealing her horns, she declares that her direct assistance has now reached its end. He looks on in shock as she tells him that he is the one who must ultimately save the world. She proclaims that he is the one destined to fight back against the world's overwhelming cruelty. From this point forward, he must struggle with his own decisions and find his own path. He must become strong enough to overcome any hardship and seize victory through his own power. The immense weight of her words leaves him silent, his mind racing to process it all. He clenches his fist, unable to speak, but filled with a new, unshakable determination. He apologizes for his hesitation, but she tells him there's no need. She explains her absolute faith in him, believing he has what it takes to clear the first floor. A silent moment of understanding passes between them as they prepare to face the final challenge. Her unwavering belief jolts him, his eyes widening with renewed purpose. She grabs his arm, playfully reminding him of his world-saving destiny and telling him to get a grip. His resolve hardens as he turns toward the boss chamber, ready to fight with his own strength. He stands before a grand staircase, challenging the boss to witness his power as she descends in a blaze of light. The first floor boss is revealed, an ethereal, blindfolded priestess wielding a staff and radiating holy energy. A grim smile forms on his lips as he steels himself for the impossible fight ahead. With his sword at the ready, he declares his intent to win, no matter how many times he must die to do it. The boss introduces herself as Serendiana, the guardian of the first floor, appointed by Lulu Heart herself. She calmly declares that for the sin of disturbing her master's peace, he must pay a price. Yukari is stunned as she sentences him to atone with his very life. Without hesitation, the priestess begins to chant. Gathering an immense amount of holy energy, she channels the light, forging it into a devastating magical blade meant to pierce the darkness. A colossal ray of luminous energy erupts from her staff, hurtling towards the ground. Before he can even react, the overwhelming attack completely engulfs him. A system window confirms his death, activating his contract with Lulu Heart to rewind time by 1 hour. He reappears before the boss chamber, utterly bewildered by his instantaneous defeat. As he processes the attack, Lulu Heart cheekily appears, asking if he's already given up and needs her assistance. He glares back at Lulu Heart, annoyed by her playful taunt about him needing help already. Brushing off her offer, he insists he's fine, his mind already working on a new strategy. He recalls the boss's attack, realizing the 1-second chant time and predictable trajectory are exploitable weaknesses. Despite the beam's incredible speed, he understands that it's a straightforward attack that can be dodged. He figures out that if he just keeps his eyes on her staff, he can anticipate the direction of the attack. Ready for another try, he activates his soul loss ability, preparing a different approach this time. The priestess begins her chant once more, her staff glowing with overwhelming holy energy. She again calls upon the light, forging it into a shining blade to strike down her opponent. This time, Yukari's eyes are locked onto her every move, his expression filled with grim focus. He throws himself to the side, narrowly dodging the massive ray of light as it slams into the ground. He hits the ground, narrowly evading the massive beam of light, confirming he can dodge her attacks. His successful dodge earns a flicker of surprise from the priestess, who acknowledges his unexpected skill. Her calm demeanor shifts as she decides to stop holding back, putting Yukari on high alert. She raises her staff again, this time chanting a spell that summons an overwhelming fiery power. The gem atop her staff blazes with power, becoming the epicenter of a swirling vortex of fire. With a final graceful motion, she slams her staff down, unleashing the full force of her fire magic. A colossal pillar of fire erupts from the ground, a devastating area of effect attack. To her astonishment, he stands firm within the inferno, making no attempt to escape the flames. A determined, almost manic grin spreads across his face as he resolves to memorize every detail of the attack. The spell reaches its peak, detonating in a blinding flash that consumes the entire chamber. A system window confirms his death, once again rewinding time by 1 hour. Back before the fight, he analyzes the new attack, noting its 3-second chant time. His eyes gleam with resolve, certain that this time he has a winning strategy. The priestess unleashes her devastating Ember's explosion spell once more. A torrent of fire rushes across the chamber, aiming to incinerate him again. Just as the spell hits, he activates Soul Command, summoning his own fire element. His summoned elemental meets the boss's magic head-on, creating a fiery stalemate. The priestess is momentarily caught off guard by the unexpected counterattack. The two spells collide in a massive chamber-shaking explosion. Yukari and his summon stand firm, having successfully nullified the boss's powerful fire magic. The priestess calmly acknowledges his interesting tactic. She realizes he's using the element's own nature to cancel out her magic. She correctly identifies his summoned fire element as the key to his defense. He grits his teeth in frustration as she calmly analyzes him while he's on the verge of collapse. However, the priestess senses his magical power is completely depleted, giving her the upper hand. She unleashes another, more powerful fire spell, declaring he is no match for her. With a defiant grin, he sarcastically thanks her for the advice, even as he faces certain defeat. A system window confirms his death, triggering another time rewind. Back before the fight, he realizes he lacks the mana for sustained summons, meaning his timing must be perfect. His new plan is to read her attacks perfectly, summoning a counter element at the last possible second to conserve his energy. He realizes victory hinges on nailing the split-second timing of his counters, but his attempts are met with a relentless cycle of death and revival. Despite the repeated failures, he inches closer to the boss with each attempt, slowly closing the gap. He focuses on analyzing every one of Serendiana's devastating attacks, memorizing her patterns. Yet the "You have died" screen becomes an all-too-familiar sight. He discovers a critical flaw in his plan. The priestess casts her magic faster than he can summon his elementals. His new strategy is to predict her next spell before she even casts it, summoning the counter in advance. He knows that without perfect prediction, he has absolutely no chance of winning. He even tries using his Harbel's mental magic, only to find the holy priestess is completely immune. The screen fades to red as he dies again and again, trapped in an endless loop of defeat. The priestess unleashes a new attack, a swirling vortex of inescapable dark magic. He realizes with dread that this tracking spell has no elemental counter, making it a true dead end. The death screens pile up, each failure adding to the seemingly impossible challenge. He faces yet another attack, this time correctly identifying it as powerful ice magic. His prediction proves correct, but it doesn't stop the inevitable blue-tinted death screen from appearing. The boss's arsenal seems endless as she unleashes a devastating fiery explosion. Serendiana looks down on him with pity, comparing his futile struggle to that of a lost lamb. Despite his exhaustion, he grits his teeth, desperately trying to prolong the fight with what little he has left. His efforts are in vain, as another red-hued death screen marks the end of yet another attempt. Just as he's about to give up, he remembers Luluheart's unwavering faith in his abilities. Fueled by Luluheart's words, he refuses to surrender and charges through the fiery onslaught. With a desperate roar, he pushes his body to its absolute limit, ignoring the searing pain. The priestess watches in disbelief, her composure finally cracking at the sight of his relentless advance. A massive explosion rocks the chamber as he pushes through the final wave of her attack. As the smoke clears, Serendiana looks down in confusion, unable to locate her target. A single foot lands firmly on the ground as he taunts her from right below her position. After countless deaths, he finally stands before her, sword in hand, having closed the impossible distance. He looks up at the Guardian, having finally reached the foot of her sacred altar. His eyes burn with triumphant resolve, declaring that he has finally reached her. Serendiana looks down, utterly stunned that a mere human could overcome her perfect defense. The priestess's composure breaks, admitting she has severely underestimated her opponent's will to live. She taunts him, suggesting he still hasn't grasped the true hopelessness of his situation. Floating high above, she declares that everything he's overcome so far was merely the prelude to his despair. Serendiana begins an extreme-level chant, harmonizing the magic of multiple elements into a single ultimate spell. He watches in utter disbelief, realizing she's simultaneously wielding the power of 5 different elements. With a serene expression, she prepares to extinguish his fragile life with her overwhelming power. A cataclysmic, multicolored blast of energy erupts, aimed to completely obliterate him. The scene shifts to the S-rank player Koki and his subordinate, who asks him just how dangerous the Luluheart dungeon truly is. He grimly asks if she remembers the infamous large-scale conquest incident that took place there. She recalls the disastrous failed raid, admitting she was deeply worried for him when he participated. Koki corrects her with a grim expression, explaining that the raid wasn't just a failure. He stares at the memory of the dungeon's tower, calling the incident a complete disaster. He reveals that 6 S-rank players and 2 A-rank players were all completely wiped out. His subordinate is stunned by the news as Koki explains that S-rank dungeons are on another level. He describes the inside of such dungeons as being like their own separate world. The Luluheart dungeon, he recalls, begins within a vast and treacherous elven forest. He explains the entire forest is a maze, swarming with cunning elves and S-rank monsters. Koki remembers being pushed to his absolute physical and mental limits by the relentless assault. Just as his team was about to break, a massive, glowing mansion appeared before them. He reveals with a somber look that by the time they reached it, he was the only one left. He recalls how their raid party had been reduced to a mere third of its original size. His subordinate questions why he didn't retreat when faced with such overwhelming odds. Koki reveals it was because the formidable Sakurako Orimachi refused to back down. His guildmate immediately understands the weight of that single powerful fact. He explains that Sakurako's presence as the strongest player was enough to keep the survivors going. But he grimly continues, recalling their final, desperate push toward the boss room. By the time they arrived, their once mighty force had dwindled to just 4 people. He lists the legendary players who made it to the end: himself, Sakurako, and 2 other S-rank titans. The first was Kyoichiro Kagamine, the S-rank guildmaster of the Demon Path Guild. The last survivor was Kaikajuki, the legendary first guildmaster of the Hayaka Guild. His subordinate is incredulous, questioning how Japan's all-star team of players could have possibly been defeated. Koki recalls that for a while, they believed they were holding their own against the overwhelming boss. He reveals their confidence was a facade, as the boss had been hiding her true power, a quintuple incantation. The memory shows the priestess effortlessly wielding the power of 5 distinct elements simultaneously. With a serene expression, the boss unleashed her ultimate spell, designed to obliterate them all. Back in the present, Yukari stares in disbelief, realizing the true scale of her multi-elemental magic. He understands with dawning horror that every attack he'd faced until now was just the boss holding back. The 5 elements converge in a cataclysmic explosion, a storm of pure, destructive energy. The inevitable death screen appears once more, marking the end of another futile attempt. Reviving again, he realizes that even summoning all his elementals at once wouldn't be enough to counter such an attack. He knows that even trying to summon them all would instantly drain his magical power. Luluheart appears beside him, calmly telling him that it's all right. Refusing to give up, he activates his Lost Man skill, erasing his own impatience and anxiety. She turns away, understanding his unyielding resolve to continue the fight alone. The priestess unleashes another devastating combination spell, a torrent of fire and torment. He grits his teeth, realizing he can barely handle the individual attributes, but not the combination. A massive pillar of water magic erupts, showcasing another element in her deadly arsenal. The death screen flashes yet again, as he desperately searches for a way to break through the onslaught. Exhausted and out of mana, he admits he's losing focus before he can even get close. He stands firm, facing a swirling vortex of water magic, ready for the next grueling attempt. He grits his teeth, realizing he must find a more efficient way to fight. He narrowly sidesteps a rushing wall of water, desperately searching for an opening. For a brief moment, he believes he has successfully dodged the attack. His hope shatters as he realizes it was a devastating double attack. Trapped, he can only look up as a second wave of magic descends from above. The familiar blue screen confirms yet another failed attempt. He despairs, unable to find any weakness in her impenetrable 5-element magic. The death screens begin to stack up, each one a monument to his mounting failures. Engulfed in flames once more, he desperately questions how victory is even possible. The cycle of defeat seems endless, and he's beginning to believe it's truly no use. Surrounded by the screens of his many failures, he finally admits to himself that victory feels impossible. But the memory of Luluheart's faith in him sparks a final defiant ember in his eyes. As he kneels in utter defeat, Luluheart watches him from a distance with a solemn expression. Her stern gaze remains fixed on him, offering no comfort, only silent, unwavering observation. He clenches his fist, resolving to use a desperate method Luluheart had warned him against. A system window confirms he has activated Lost Man, purging himself of fear, anxiety, and all other emotions. He rises, his eyes glowing with an eerie calm, his entire demeanor now cold and detached. With his thoughts finally clear, he realizes there must be a hidden reason why Luluheart brought him here. He recalls that her actions always had a purpose, forcing himself to think past the fight and find the true solution. He questions why she would make him face such a superior opponent, certain there's a lesson he's missing. He desperately questions the timing of this impossible boss fight. He wonders why Lulu Heart didn't let him grind for more power before throwing him into this trial. He reconsiders their entire journey, questioning if simply gathering items and souls was the true purpose. He realizes her true goal must be something far more profound than simple power-ups. He acknowledges his current state, admitting to himself that he is fundamentally weak. The concept of his own weakness echoes in his mind, becoming the central point of his focus. Suddenly, a flash of insight hits him, his eyes widening with a new understanding. He connects his current struggle to past moments of powerlessness, seeing a recurring pattern. In the darkness of his thoughts, the final piece of the puzzle clicks into place. He grins with newfound clarity, understanding that Lulu Heart forced this fight because he was weak, not in spite of it.
He turns to Lulu Heart with a newfound sense of calm, thanking her for the brutal lesson.
She responds with a knowing wink, acknowledging that he's finally grasped the true nature of the challenge. The doors to the boss chamber burst open with a flash of light, heralding his final decisive attempt. Stepping back into the arena, he declares with absolute certainty that he finally understands the path to victory. The ethereal priestess waits patiently, her holy aura undiminished, unaware of the shift in her opponent's mindset. With a fierce grin, he reveals he has discovered the secret to defeating Serendiana. Lulu Heart closes her eyes with a knowing smile, challenging him to prove his revelation. She eagerly awaits the answer he's forged through countless cycles of suffering and despair. The priestess recognizes his strategy of using elementals to counter her magic, but she's about to see its true application. Instead of summoning a counter, he begins to absorb the boss's fire magic, turning her own power into his. The priestess notes his clever use of the elemental to overcome her magic. He smirks, his confidence unshaken by her analysis. He goads her, asking why she isn't getting more serious. His bold taunt clearly startles the powerful guardian. He dares her to unleash her full power like her 5-element magic. The priestess is visibly flustered, questioning his audacity. She claims she's reluctant to fall for such a cheap provocation, yet she decides it's her duty as the stronger one to answer his challenge. His eyes gleam with triumph, realizing she's fallen right into his trap. As she promised, she gathers an immense amount of power to finish him in a single devastating blow. Just as she prepares her ultimate spell, he activates a mysterious skill, shrouding himself in a dark aura. In a flash of purple energy, he vanishes completely from sight. The priestess is stunned, her eyes wide with disbelief as she realizes her target has disappeared. She questions if it's concealment magic, but quickly dismisses the thought, confident in her detection abilities. She scans the entire chamber, certain that no matter how faint his power, she should be able to sense him. Her composure cracks as she realizes the impossible. There are no living beings without magical power, yet he is gone. Deciding to force him out of hiding, she unleashes her 5-element spell as a massive area of effect attack. The chamber erupts in a cataclysmic storm of fire, ice, and lightning, designed to obliterate everything. The devastating magic tears through the hall, but to her shock, there is absolutely no response. Utterly bewildered, she frantically searches the empty chamber, unable to comprehend where he could have gone. He sprints along the chamber wall, using the chaos of her attack to move unseen. The priestess is left completely bewildered, questioning how her target could have vanished into thin air. His hand grips a high ledge, having scaled the massive pillars in the blink of an eye. From high above, he calls down to the stunned guardian, revealing his new position. He looks down at Serendiana with grim certainty, his plan having worked perfectly. He reveals her greatest weakness. Her senses are entirely dependent on perceiving magical power. By using Lost Man to erase his own magic, he effectively rendered himself invisible to her. Her eyes widen in shock as she realizes the terrifying implication of his strategy. He then reveals the final, crucial part of his plan, which hinges on the skill's time limit. A system window confirms the skill has expired, and his magical power erupts back to its original state. He unleashes his ultimate skill, releasing all his stored magical power in a single, devastating soul burst. The sudden, overwhelming surge of energy completely stuns the priestess. She's baffled, unable to comprehend where he could have obtained such immense power. The scene flashes back a few hours, revealing the secret behind his hidden strength. His Soul Eater ability allowed him to absorb the souls of defeated monsters, steadily increasing his power. Lulu Heart cryptically hinted that the ability had a much greater, hidden purpose. He was left confused, unaware of the true potential he held. She revealed that the true function of Soul Eater was an inheritance of her own power. The skill not only absorbed souls, but also allowed him to store their energy as a massive power reserve. This stored power acts as a dam, capable of being unleashed all at once in a single cataclysmic burst. He channels the combined power of every soul he's gathered and every life he's sacrificed. He focuses this immense energy into a single all-or-nothing strike. With a final desperate roar, he brings his soul-infused blade down upon the Guardian. He knows this ultimate attack will consume all his stored power, leaving him completely vulnerable. But after countless deaths, he has memorized her every move, including her spellcasting time. From this point-blank range, he is certain his attack is too fast for her to counter. The priestess is caught directly in the path of his overwhelming soul-powered assault. Looking up at the descending blast, she calmly acknowledges his impressive power. However, she reveals with a serene smile that she too has a final trick prepared. She unveils her ultimate ace, an ability that completely negates a magic user's greatest weakness, their chanting time. She confidently asks if he truly believed she hadn't already prepared for such a weakness. The priestess reveals she possesses special wands from her treasury that negate chanting time entirely. But as she reaches for her trump card, her hand finds nothing but empty air. Her composure shatters as she realizes her instant cast branch has vanished. A flashback reveals Luluhart's mischievous smile, confirming she stole the item during their earlier visit to the vault. Without her ace, the priestess realizes with horror that she can't finish her spell in time. With a final, triumphant roar, Yukari unleashes the full, unrestrained power of his soul-infused attack. He brings his blade down, declaring the end of their long and brutal battle. The priestess raises her arms in a desperate, last-ditch effort to defend against the overwhelming assault. She knows with grim certainty that her incomplete barrier stands no chance against his final strike. His soul-infused attack erupts in a cataclysmic blast of purple energy, completely overwhelming the Guardian. Suddenly, a system message flashes across the sky, broadcasting an announcement to every player on the planet. In a high-tech office, a top-ranked player stares in disbelief as the system declares the first floor of the Luluhart dungeon has been cleared. Elsewhere, another powerful warrior is stunned by the news that rewards have been granted to the mysterious clearer. Koki and his subordinate are left speechless as the system grants the clearer full authority over the first floor. A lone player in a snowy land learns that the path to the second floor is now open, thanks to this unprecedented achievement. A woman dressed as a nun appears in the broadcast, her serene smile addressing all players. Behind her calm facade, the shadow of a monstrous demon looms as she offers her congratulations. The world's strongest players watch with grim expressions as her message is broadcast to all of humanity. Her innocent smile is juxtaposed with Luluhart's knowing smirk as she begins a message about safety. A system window announces blessings as Yukari and Luluhart celebrate their hard-won victory. The once deadly chamber is now bathed in a serene, holy light. Overwhelmed with emotion, he roars in triumph, the reality of his impossible victory finally sinking in. The immense strain of the battle hits him and he collapses to his knees, utterly spent. The system officially begins to process his monumental achievement. A contribution ranking appears, confirming Yukari as the sole clearer of the first floor. As the top contributor, he is granted full control over the dungeon's first floor and a list of rewards. He receives his first reward, a world-class ring that can nullify all magic for a short time. His Soul Eater skill activates, beginning to convert the powerful soul of the defeated Guardian into magical energy. He's staggered by the immense influx of power as the Guardian's soul is fully absorbed into his own. The system begins to process his contribution to the global player rankings. However, an unexpected error message flashes, halting the update. It clarifies that his achievement can't be ranked until he reaches S rank, stockpiling the points instead. He looks on with a sense of relief, glad that his identity will remain a secret from the world. He knows he could never explain that his victory was achieved by borrowing a Demon King's power. Luluhart turns to him, offering her sincere congratulations for a job well done. She proudly declares he is the very first person to ever defeat a floor boss in her dungeon. He's taken aback, completely surprised by her genuine and uncharacteristic praise. With a grateful smile, he gives her full credit for making his victory possible. Luluhart playfully dismisses his gratitude, insisting she did nothing at all to help. He realizes Luluhart forced him into this impossible fight because of his low magical power, not despite it. Luluhart listens intently as he begins to explain the revelation he reached through countless deaths. He explains he couldn't understand why she'd make a mere D-rank player face such an overwhelming dungeon. He recalls fighting the priestess and realizing she perceived the world entirely through magical energy. He noticed that with each death and revival, her attacks became progressively less accurate. He understood this was because his dwindling mana made him harder for her to detect. He finally grasps that the blindfolded priestess was literally blind, relying solely on her magic sense. He concludes that if he'd been stronger, he never would have discovered her critical weakness. Instead, he would have been trapped in an endless cycle of brute force attacks and certain defeat. He sees her seemingly cruel trial as a form of tough love, designed to teach him a vital lesson. Luluhart reminds him that he also managed to collect Serendiana's equipment during their earlier infiltration. He reflects on his victories against both Harble and the powerful priestess. Yet, he feels his win was incomplete, as he never truly overcame her ultimate quintuple chant. A fire ignites in his eyes. Realizing the long road to true strength still lies ahead, Lulu Heart sighs at his brooding, reminding him that he was the one who ultimately won the fight. He argues that his victory was only possible by exploiting her weakness with his lost man skill. She gets closer, scolding him for not seeing his own skills as a part of his strength. She clarifies that Serendiana's power was to perceive magic and predict movement based on it. The system reveals the name of the priestess's powerful perception skill, Elder Vision. Lulu Heart declares that his lost man skill is the perfect hard counter to her Elder Vision. Lulu Heart explains that Serendiana's power grew so strong, she became overconfident and neglected other detection methods. She commends him for playing his limited hand perfectly. He successfully exploited her overconfidence, turning her own strength into a fatal flaw. He looks on, taken aback by her sharp and accurate analysis of the battle. His expression softens into a grateful smile, acknowledging the truth in her words. He then realizes his soul harvest skill hasn't activated, but Lulu Heart cryptically suggests he's missing something. She points towards the altar, revealing the location of Serendiana's soul body. A massive, golden, ethereal form of the priestess now stands where the altar was. He stares in confusion, admitting that he can't see anything there at all. Lulu Heart explains that the guardian soul is so immense, his current power level is too low to even perceive it. She promises that with enough training, he'll eventually be able to summon powerful souls of his own. He's awestruck by the thought of one day summoning the powerful priestess herself. She suggests they return another time, explaining that while he's gained power, he's also completely drained. She explains that his victory only increased his maximum power capacity, and he needs to rest to refill his depleted reserves. She lists their remaining objectives: exploring new areas, gathering more souls, and retrieving hidden treasures. With a confident wink, she reminds him that their conquest of the first floor has only just begun. A tired but content smile crosses his face as he agrees it's time to head home and recover. The scene transitions back to the modern world, focusing on a massive tower under a starry night sky. He stumbles out of the dungeon portal, every muscle aching as a chibi Lulu Heart cheekily plans their next move. But as he walks home under the moon, a mysterious purple light begins to glow from his hand. A mysterious nun appears behind him, warning him of the dangers of walking alone at night. Her eyes glint with malice as she declares her desire to feast. Yukari is suddenly struck by an unseen force, his eyes glowing with a strange red light. A menacing, demonic eye flares within the dark energy, revealing the true nature of his attacker. He cries out in agony as the malevolent red aura violently engulfs him. Dark tendrils erupt from the ground, pinning his exhausted body down with overwhelming force. He struggles against the shadowy restraints, completely bewildered by the sudden ambush. In a desperate move, he activates his lost man skill, choosing to erase his sense of pain. The nun calmly walks away, noting that the first floor of the Lulu Heart dungeon was cleared today. She turns back with a sinister smile, admitting he was simply an unfortunate target of opportunity. The nun reveals her sinister intentions, addressing Yukari by his full name as a demonic entity looms behind her. His eyes glowing with a malevolent energy, he struggles to ask for the identity of his mysterious assailant. A system window identifies her as Tenjin Beatrice Yoriko, a high-ranking member of the dungeon church with a skill called Design Desire. She expresses surprise that he can still resist her power, even while bound by the demonic tendrils. Deciding to end his resistance, she prepares to unleash another, more powerful wave of her dark magic. The shadowy restraints tighten around him, pinning him to the ground with even greater force. Suddenly, her expression shifts to disbelief as she realizes her powerful skill has been completely nullified. He reveals the source of his escape, the world-class ring from Serendiana, which nullifies all magic. Though the ring saved him, it's a one-time use item with a long cooldown, and he's still trapped. Completely drained of all power and with no other options, he desperately wonders how to escape his hopeless situation. The nun acknowledges his unexpected resilience, marking him as a genuine threat. With a sinister smile, she decides to get serious, preparing to use her Design Desire to permanently disable him. A monstrous shadow beast lunges, intent on completely incapacitating the helpless Yukari, but just as the attack connects, a cage of pink light and ethereal butterflies suddenly materializes, halting the assault. A new condescending voice echoes through the air, addressing both combatants as weaklings. A powerful new player makes her grand entrance, identified by the system as the S-rank guildmaster, Oromachi Sakurako. Her sharp gaze fixes on the nun as she possessively questions what is being done to her Yukari. Yukari stares in disbelief, completely stunned to see one of Japan's strongest players intervening on his behalf. Sakurako reveals she was drawn by the news of the dungeon clear, expressing her surprise at finding the infamous Witch Beatrice here. The nun, Beatrice, feigns innocence, introducing herself as a high-ranking saint from the Holy Dungeon Church. Sakurako's eyes narrow, identifying her opponent as the infamous Beatrice Yoriko Irigami. Beatrice is revealed as the powerful saint-class leader who secretly rules the Holy Dungeon Church. The S-rank player notes Beatrice's long absence from the front lines, surprised to find her in Japan. With a sharp grin, Sakurako declares this a lucky day, as she can finally eliminate her rival. Beatrice feigns innocence, asking Sakurako not to be so hostile while explaining her own beliefs. She reveals her true allegiance lies with the dungeons, the monsters, and the Demon King who rules them all. Sakurako coldly dismisses her twisted faith, her gaze fixed on the memory of a past attack on her guild. The nun plays dumb, acting completely oblivious to Sakurako's accusations. She then shifts her focus back to the helpless Yukari, declaring him her only target. Beatrice reveals her interest in him stems from the recent system announcement about the Lulu Heart Dungeon's first floor being cleared. Beatrice reveals that Yukari is the key to her mysterious and grand ambitions. Sakurako is completely stunned, questioning the absurd claim that Yukari cleared the Lulu Heart Dungeon. She erupts in laughter, dismissing Beatrice's statement as utter nonsense. With a smug grin, she mockingly thanks the nun for the most amusing joke she's heard in ages. Beatrice responds with a deceptively sweet smile, wondering if she has a hidden talent for comedy. Yukari can only watch in bewilderment as the two powerful women trade verbal blows over him. Sakurako's amusement vanishes, replaced by a cold and serious demeanor. She acknowledges Yukari's past feats, recalling his victories against much higher-ranked players. However, she knows the Lulu Heart Dungeon is an insurmountable challenge, far beyond his known capabilities. Sakurako decides she's wasted enough time entertaining the ravings of a witch. With a crazed expression, Sakurako declares that Beatrice's life ends here. She releases her limitations, unleashing her powerful five-tailed state. Sakurako unleashes a devastating torrent of fire, a skill called Fox Fire Half Bloom. In response, Beatrice calmly erects a powerful golden barrier known as the Albion Veil. The fiery blast slams into her shield, creating a cataclysmic explosion. Caught in the crossfire, Yukari struggles to withstand the sheer force of their clash. Beatrice remains unfazed, acknowledging the expected power of Sakurako's attack but hinting it's not enough. Sakurako glares, questioning why Beatrice is still holding back her true strength. She scoffs in annoyance, her patience clearly wearing thin. Her power flares as she accuses the nun of getting cocky over such a minor defense. Beatrice counters by activating her Design Desire skill, launching a piercing red energy attack. Sakurako's eyes gleam with manic delight, promising to show the nun what real power looks like. She unleashes her Black Flame Butterfly technique, a swirling storm of dark, fiery energy. The attack manifests as a demonic claw surrounded by burning butterflies, ready to tear through Beatrice's defense. The flames coalesce into a roaring beast, descending upon the nun with overwhelming force. From the sidelines, Lulu Heart calmly observes the immense magical power being thrown around by the two S-rank players. She tells the exhausted Yukari to pay attention, as this is the level of power he must one day surpass. Yukari's eyes burn with resolve, determined to absorb every detail of this high-level S-rank battle. In response, Beatrice summons a volley of holy lances, unleashing her powerful Seraphic Ray attack. She launches the golden spears, chiding her opponents for being too constrained by conventional thinking. Beatrice counters with a powerful double barrier, meeting the fiery lances head-on. She preaches her twisted gospel, declaring that Earth is now a divine land and humanity must accept its new reality. The holy lances, now burning with intense fire, rain down with devastating force. Sakurako glares back, completely unimpressed and annoyed by the nun's sermon. Ignoring the lecture, she unleashes her 1,000 binding chains, intent on silencing her opponent. A web of glowing pink energy erupts, ensnaring the incoming holy spears. The chains shatter the lances in a brilliant explosion, nullifying Beatrice's attack completely. Unfazed, Beatrice decides her current level of magic is insufficient and prepares to escalate the fight. With a confident smile, she decides to deploy her ultimate weapon, the Holy Sword. Beatrice summons the legendary Holy Sword Excalibur, a blade of pure light designed to vanquish all darkness. The Holy Sword's divine light clashes violently against Sakurako's overwhelming pink energy. Beatrice taunts her opponent, questioning if her current power is enough to handle a legendary weapon. Sakurako smirks, acknowledging the cheap provocation but deciding to indulge her rival's challenge. Gathering her energy, she vows to demonstrate the vast gap between their abilities. Sakurako releases another level of her power, escalating the fight to her Six Tails state. With a look of intense concentration, she prepares to activate one of her ultimate techniques. She unleashes the Fox Cry Barrier, a cursed technique designed to bind a legendary beast and immobilize her foe. A demonic claw emerges from the swirling red energy, a manifestation of the curse's immense power. Beatrice is taken aback, realizing Sakurako has summoned the power of the mythical nine-tailed fox. The nun questions if Sakurako would destroy an entire city, but the S-rank player declares it a worthy sacrifice to erase her enemy. Yukari is horrified by Sakurako's willingness to sacrifice the entire city for her goal. He sees the cold determination in her glowing eyes and knows she isn't bluffing. As a cataclysmic blast of energy tears through the cityscape, Yukari realizes he has to stop them. He's caught in the crossfire, looking up as a massive holy spear plummets toward him. Beatrice, however, is thrilled by the immense power on display, her excitement growing with the danger. With a crazed smile, she eagerly prepares to unleash her full power against her rival. The nun swings her holy sword, sending a devastating wave of energy hurtling toward Sakurako. The immense pressure of the battle pushes Yukari to a new limit, activating a hidden power-up. With his newfound strength, he summons his elemental companion Harble to join the fray. Beatrice is suddenly caught off guard, staring in shock as a strange energy envelops her hand. Beatrice is stunned, realizing her movements have been completely sealed by an unknown force. Even the mighty Sakurako is caught off guard, questioning the sudden interference. The nun is utterly humiliated, unable to believe she's been immobilized by a supposed D-rank player. Despite his injuries, Yukari pushes himself up, knowing he's the only one who can intervene. With Harble at his side, he unleashes his own power, determined to end the destructive S-rank duel.